Chapter 70. At the mention of the marriage by combat, the Sky Prides at the scene were reminded of Princess Linglong, especially when she blocked Chu Kuangren's attack that day at the banquet. Even they did not dare to say that they could block Chu Kuangren's attack, but Princess Linglong did it. It was obvious that she was also a top-notch Sky Pride. The princess has a godly Taoist physique. If she can get her hands on the godly essence, she might be able to compete with Chu Kuangren. At that moment, one of the Sky Prides murmured. Everyone's eyes lit up. That was right. They had returned empty-handed from the secret realm, but the godly essence was also an opportunity of fortune. Don't even think about it. With Chu Kuangren around, do you think we have any hope in this marriage by combat by combat? One of the Sky Prides said. His words were like a bucket of cold water that doused the fire in everyone's hearts. Yuan Hong smiled bitterly. Chu Kuangren is too strong. If he participates in this marriage by combat, we have no hope at all. Besides, this guy is very popular with the princess. At that thought, everyone suddenly felt their vision darken. He was handsome and powerful. If they were the princess, they would definitely choose Chu Kuangren. Everyone, don't be so discouraged. Chu Kuangren will not participate in this marriage by combat. At that moment, a voice came. Gu Chang'e was walking towards the Sky Prides. Everyone frowned when they saw him. Gu Chang'e had previously defeated many great orthodoxies in order to cultivate his heart of invincibility. However, they were more interested in what Gu Chang'e had just said. Fang Tian asked, "What did you mean by that, Your Highness?" Gu Chang'e said, "I said that Chu Kuangren will not participate in this marriage by combat. My younger sister said this herself." Before going to the secret realm of the luminous moon, Gu Chang'e had talked to Princess Linglong about Chu Kuangren. Princess Linglong had mentioned that Chu Kuangren had clearly stated that he was not interested in the godly essence and would not participate in the marriage by combat. After hearing Gu Chang'e's words, everyone's eyes lit up with hope. I can't believe that Chu Kuangren is not interested in the godly essence. Haha, this gives us a chance. Is this guy even a man? The princess is so beautiful and has a godly Taoist physique, but he's not interested at all. That's good too. Don't blame us for being impolite. After the excitement, Fang Tian looked at Gu Chang'e and asked curiously, "Why did the crown prince tell us this?" A cold glint flashed across Gu Chang'e's eyes. "I don't like Chu Kuangren either. My sister can marry anyone but Chu Kuangren." "I see." In the palace of the Royal Azure Dynasty. In Princess Linglong's sleeping quarters, she sat on her bed with a blade laid horizontally in front of her. It was the saint weapon, the bright moon blade. This sage's Taoist rhyme is indeed extraordinary. The remnant sage's Taoist rhyme on this blade is very mysterious. It's enough for me to comprehend for a while. Princess Linglong's slender fingers caressed the blade of the saber as a blurry look flashed across her eyes. No one knew what she was thinking about. His Majesty has arrived. At this moment, the voice of a palace maid came from outside the bedroom. The Royal Azure Dynasty king, who was dressed in a dragon robe and looked like a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s, walked in. Princess Linglong kept her sacred weapon and stood up to welcome her father. "Greetings, father. No need for formalities, my son." The Royal Azure Dynasty king smiled faintly, but then his face stiffened and turned gloomy. A terrifying, domineering aura swept out uncontrollably. The palace maids in the bedroom were so frightened that they knelt on the ground. Their hearts were filled with fear. They did not know why the Royal Azure Dynasty king would suddenly become so enraged. "Other than my son, the rest of you get out." Not long after, only Princess Linglong and the Royal Azure Dynasty king were left in the bedroom. The domineering aura still filled the air. "Speak. Who is it? Who did you give the godly essence to?" The Royal Azure Dynasty king suppressed his anger and growled. He was the one who raised Princess Linglong, and he himself was an honorable supreme. Hence, he quickly noticed that something was amiss. The godly essence in Princess Linglong's body had disappeared. How could he not be angry when his daughter's chastity was at stake? "Father, let's cancel the martial arts contest." Princess Linglong said calmly. "We'll talk about this later. Now tell me, Who is that person? I'm gonna skin him alive. I did this willingly. Willingly? The royal Azure Dynasty king was stunned. Do you know what you're talking about? The Shang clan's young emperor will be arriving in a few days. When that time comes, he'll also participate in the martial arts contest. If he finds out about this, the royal Azure Dynasty will become enemies with the Shang clan. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have agreed to hold this martial arts contest. What a joke. The more the royal Azure Dynasty king thought about it, the angrier he got. He could not wait to tear the person who took away his daughter's chastity into 1,000 pieces. Quickly, tell me, who is that person? Princess Linglong pursed her lips and fell silent for a while. The Black Heaven Sect's elder senior brother, Chu Quangren. It's him. The royal Azure Dynasty king was stunned for a moment before he calmed down. A thought flashed across his eyes. So it's him. When we were in the secret realm, we encountered. Princess Linglong told him everything that happened in the Grey Mist domain. As the royal Azure Dynasty king listened, the anger on his face was replaced by contemplation. If it's him, it's not that I can't accept it. Princess Linglong was speechless. She knew it would turn out like this. To the royal Azure Dynasty king, she was his daughter, but she was also a tool for marriage. As long as the benefits were maximized, it was still a marriage. Chu Quangren, Supreme Taoist Physique, Supreme Foundation, once killed an honorable Supreme, killed Lei Ao in the secret realm, killed an incomplete sage. This person is indeed talented, and the Black Heaven Sect is not much weaker than the Shang clan. Perhaps compared to the Shang clan's young emperor, he'll be a better marriage partner. The royal Azure Dynasty king murmured. Princess Linglong, who was beside him, suddenly felt a sense of anticipation. Marriage with Chu Quangren? To her, compared to the Shang clan's young emperor whom she had never met, she was more willing to marry Chu Quangren. Let me handle this matter, the royal Azure Dynasty king said. Outside the royal Azure Dynasty, a ferry boat was flying in the sky. On the deck, a young cultivator in a green robe sat cross-legged. This young cultivator had a dignified appearance, and a surge of Taoist rhyme surged around his body. After a while, the Taoist rhyme on the green-robed cultivator retracted. I'm only one step away from breaking through to the battle monarch realm. Young emperor, we're almost there. An old man walked up to him. Yes. Young emperor, there's something I don't understand. Why did you agree to Princess Linglong's request to hold a marriage by combat? Isn't that unnecessary? The green-robed cultivator said, she's a woman who doesn't want to be manipulated by others. The reason she held the marriage by combat was just to protest against this marriage. Since that's the case, I'll let her know how useless it is. Before me, she can only submit. Besides, since this is my first time in the Azure Dragon domain, I'll take this opportunity to meet the Sky Prides of the Azure Dragon domain. The green-robed cultivator's tone was full of confidence. He was not the least bit worried that he would lose in the marriage by combat because he was the Shang clan's young emperor. I see. I thought your Princess Linglong had fallen for him. The old man suddenly realized. Chapter 71. Capital City inside a restaurant. Chu Quangren was tidying up his yin and yang ring. He had obtained a lot of good stuff from the secret realm. Although most of it was given to Elder Ruyan to bring back to the sect, he still kept some for himself. This is... Suddenly, Chu Quangren let out a soft gasp. While he was tidying up, he found a yin and yang ring from the black light sage's body, and his eyes lit up. How much good stuff would a sage's yin and yang ring contain? Chu Quangren opened it expectantly. However, what he saw was an empty yin and yang ring. There were only a few soul stones, a few bottles of medicinal pills, and some miscellaneous items. No way, is this sage that shabby? Chu Quangren pouted and then carefully tidied up the ring. He did not need to look at the medicinal pills and soul stones. His attention was more on the miscellaneous items, which were a token, a jade scroll, and a few sets of clothes. The token was black and very heavy in his hand. There was also an aura of death surrounding it. It was engraved with various patterns and the word protector, was written on it. Chu Kuangren remembered that when he used the Eye of Revelation to check on the Black Light Sage, he had extracted the words Sacred Palace of Death. What kind of force is this Sacred Palace of Death? I've never heard of it before, but with a sage in charge, it must be something. Chu Kuangren thought to himself and kept the token. Then he picked up the jade scroll. With a thought, a surge of Taoist rhyme erupted and a large amount of information flowed into his mind like a torrent, forming 3 huge words: gluttonous devouring technique. This jade scroll actually recorded a sage technique. Chu Kuangren had entered the state of Taoist enlightenment a few times, so his understanding of Taoism was already very profound, even comparable to an honorable. Although this sage technique was extremely exquisite, he had a rough understanding of the effects of this technique after looking at it for a while. So powerful. This is definitely a sage ruler technique. It's a sage ruler technique that's even more exquisite than the human mountain stamp. I'm afraid it's very close to the legendary emperor technique. Chu Kuangren was shocked. According to ancient legends, the dragon had 9 children, each of them different, and this gluttonous devouring technique was one of them. It could devour all living beings to strengthen itself. The gluttonous devouring technique was derived from this ancient divine beast, gluttonous devouring technique. It could devour the essence of cultivator's flesh and blood to increase one's cultivation level. Devouring others to strengthen oneself. That's quite strange. But this is a world where the strong prey on the weak. If you're not strong enough, you'll be bullied by others. Chu Kuangren thought to himself and made up his mind to cultivate this technique. Before the martial arts contest began, Chu Kuangren gave Lan Yu and Li Xingqian some instructions before he went into closed-door meditation. Since the Black Light Sage had cultivated the gluttonous devouring technique, the remnant Taoist rhymes in his body would be of great help to Chu Kuangren in learning this technique. Within the capital, everyone was looking forward to the groom search competition. This was especially true for the Sky Prides, who were looking forward to obtaining the godly essence to break through their cultivation realms and surpass Chu Kuangren. However, before the joust for a spouse even took place, they received a piece of news that incomparably infuriated them. The joust for a spouse was cancelled. This infuriated everyone. It turned out that they had come all the way from the Azure Dragon dynasty, but they didn't even get to touch it. Instead, they were fooled by the Azure Dragon dynasty. Countless cultivators were filled with righteous indignation, demanding an explanation from the dynasty. I came all the way from the Azure Dragon dynasty just to participate in the princess's groom search competition, and now you're telling me it's cancelled? Are you kidding me? Are you messing with us? I didn't even get to see the princess and it's already over. What a scam. The Sky Prides in the capital city were filled with complaints. The cultivators from the ordinary orthodoxies were still fine since the royal Azure dynasty would distribute some soul stones to appease them. On the other hand, the few sage orthodoxies were infuriated. They needed to put in some effort to deal with this. However, the royal Azure dynasty king was currently dealing with someone else. Within the capital city, the Shang clan's young emperor had arrived. The royal Azure dynasty king personally received him. Princess Linglong had also appeared. When the Shang clan's young emperor saw the princess for the first time, he could not help but be stunned by her beauty. Princess Linglong, who was already incomparably beautiful, had an air of nobility in her every move. She was so high and mighty that people could only look up to her. It was rare for the Shang clan's young emperor to be moved. Greetings, king, princess. The Shang clan's young emperor bowed slightly. You're welcome, young emperor. The royal Azure dynasty king smiled and brought the Shang clan's young emperor to the back garden. Without further ado, he immediately announced that he wanted to call off the marriage. Hearing this, the elder who came with the Shang clan's young emperor's face darkened. He said, "Is the royal Azure dynasty toying with the Shang clan?" The Shang clan's young emperor glanced at Princess Linglong and said, "Is there anything the princess isn't satisfied with? It's not the groom's problem, it's..." The royal Azure dynasty king paused and sighed regretfully. He then recounted what happened in the luminous moon's hidden realm. Now that my daughter is no longer chaste, She knows that she's no longer worthy of the Shang clan's young emperor. That's why she took the initiative to call off the marriage. I know that I'm in the wrong, so I've prepared a generous gift. I'll send someone to the Shang clan to apologize personally. Hearing this, the Shang clan's young emperor's face darkened. He felt as if a green grassland had grown on his head. Princess Linglong's godly essence had been given to someone else. Looking at the incomparably beautiful Princess Linglong, the Shang clan's young emperor forcefully extinguished the trace of love he had for her. The more he thought about it, the angrier and more embarrassed he felt. It was as if there was a huge rock in his chest, making it hard for him to breathe. He had wanted to use the godly essence to achieve a breakthrough, but now that everything had been destroyed, both as a man and as a cultivator, it was unbearable. Fortunately, the marriage between the Shang clan and the Royal Azure dynasty is only known by our two clans. If we call off the marriage now, we can pretend that nothing has happened and we won't lose any face. The Royal Azure dynasty king continued. From the beginning to the end, Princess Linglong did not say a word. Very well, very well. Looks like you've arranged everything, Royal Azure dynasty king. What else do we have to say? Elder, let's go. The Shang clan's young emperor suppressed his anger and left. Wait, the Royal Azure dynasty king stopped him. I'll be holding a banquet in the palace today, inviting all the Sky Prides to explain the sudden cancellation of the marriage by combat. If the young emperor is interested, you can come as well. Will Chu Kuangren be there? He should be. All right, I'll be there, the Shang clan's young emperor said coldly. In the garden, only Princess Linglong and the Royal Azure dynasty king were left. Father, will the Shang clan really let this go? Princess Linglong asked. I've already prepared a generous gift. The Shang clan's higher-ups are not stupid. Although this will affect the relationship between both parties, there won't be too much of a conflict, the Royal Azure dynasty king said. Then, what about the Black Heaven sect? I've already discussed it with Honorable Xian Qi. From today onwards, Chu Kuangren will not only be a Taoist of the Black Heaven sect, but also the Royal Azure dynasty's fiancé. As for when the wedding will take place, it's all up to you. Chapter 72. Inside the capital city's restaurant, Chu Kuangren woke up from his closed-door meditation. With his current understanding of the Tao and the help of the Black Light Sage's body, it only took him a few days to master the gluttonous devouring technique. This technique was very powerful, and Chu Kuangren believed that it would be of great help to him. However, this technique could easily damage one's luck, so he had to be cautious when using it. Indeed, in this world of cultivation, luck and merit existed as well. Therefore, many cultivators did not dare to go on a killing spree even if they were powerful. They were afraid that they would be tainted by karma and damage their own luck. Little guy, you're finally awake. Did you gain anything? The seventh forefather's voice came from the void. Yes, I gained something. Chu Kuangren smiled. All right, I have something to tell you. You're quite lucky with women, kid. You even managed to win Princess Linglong's heart. Chu Kuangren was drinking water when he heard the seventh forefather's words. He spat out the water in shock. Seventh forefather, how did you know? Not only me, but the sect leader and the others also know. What happened? Chu Kuangren quickly asked. 2 days ago, the sect leader agreed that the Black Heaven sect will form an alliance with the Royal Azure dynasty through marriage, and you will be the fiancé of the Royal Azure dynasty. Chu Kuangren was dumbfounded. What happened during his closed-door meditation? It had only been a few days, and he was already sold? How much did he sell for? Can you give me a little? No, seventh forefather. Why didn't you inform me first? Princess Linglong has already given you the godly essence. Now that she has come to you, are you going to reject her? The seventh forefather teased. Princess Linglong and I did this for a reason. Back in the secret realm, we had to do this to protect ourselves. We don't have any feelings for each other. Feelings can be nurtured. If you really don't like it, when you become stronger in the future, it's just a matter of writing a divorce letter. Chu Kuangren was speechless. Was that even possible? That was just too much. However, Chu Kuangren could sense something else from the seventh forefather's words. You want the royal Azure dynasty to protect me? Yes, that's right. The reason why I agreed to this was firstly to form an alliance with the royal Azure dynasty, which is mutually beneficial. Secondly, it was because of you. Little guy, you're too talented. Many people will have their eyes on you. Although the Black Heaven sect is powerful, we don't have full confidence that we can always protect you. Therefore, we need allies. The royal Azure dynasty is a sage orthodoxy, and their strength is not any weaker than the Black Heaven sect. If you marry Princess Linglong, the royal Azure dynasty will definitely protect you. Both of our sage orthodoxies will protect you. After listening to the seventh forefather, Chu Kuangren fell into deep thought. He could feel the Black Heaven sect's good intentions, and by doing so, it was also a form of compensation to Princess Linglong. As far as he was concerned, a marriage alliance would only be beneficial to him. Prince Consort, this is my first time doing it. Chu Kuangren scratched his head and said, Nonsense, how many more times do you want to do it? The seventh ancestor said snappily. When he left the room, Lan Yu was waiting outside. Young master, you're out of seclusion. Yes. Chu Kuangren smiled and nodded. After hesitating for a while, he told her about the marriage alliance between him and Princess Linglong. Lan Yu was stunned for a while and felt a little sour in her heart. I didn't expect Princess Linglong to have such a relationship with you. How should I address Princess Linglong from now on? Matriarch? You don't have to worry about that. Besides, Lan Yu, I've never treated you as a slave. Chu Kuangren said the last sentence with a serious expression. Lan Yu's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. To her, Chu Kuangren was a deity, a creator-like existence. She, on the other hand, was just a slave created by Chu Kuangren. There was a clear line between a slave and a deity. However, this deity was too gentle to her. He was so gentle that she would occasionally feel different emotions, even trying to cross the line that she had set for herself. Brother Chu, someone's looking for you. Just then, Li Xingqian shouted from downstairs. Behind him was an old man wearing a tall hat. Look, it's Chief Chao from the palace. I heard that he's a trusted aide of the royal Azure dynasty king. He usually stays in the palace. Why is he here today? And he's here for Chu Kuangren. That's strange. The cultivators in the restaurant were discussing among themselves. Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu downstairs. Master Chu, it's a pleasure to meet you. Chief Chao walked up to Chu Kuangren and bowed in front of everyone. Everyone was shocked by this. Chief Chao's position in the palace was not ordinary. He was in charge of the palace's internal affairs. Even the crown prince had to treat him with respect. Now he was bowing to Chu Kuangren. In a sense, it represented the royal Azure dynasty king's attitude. You're welcome, Chief Chao. Chu Kuangren smiled. He used the eye of revelation to take a look. Wow, this is an honorable. Someone who could accompany the royal Azure dynasty king was no ordinary person. Master Chu, the royal Azure dynasty king has asked me to invite you to the palace for a chat. All right, I understand. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly and brought Lan Yu to the palace. In the back garden of the palace, the royal Azure dynasty king had long prepared to meet Chu Kuangren. He had only heard about it before, so he could not help but feel curious and excited. Not long after, Chief Chao led Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu to the back garden. The royal Azure dynasty king could not help but be amazed at the first sight of Chu Kuangren. What an immortal! Dressed in a wide-sleeved white robe with a jade crown on his head, Chu Kuangren had handsome facial features and an ethereal aura. He was like a prince, peerless in this world. Greetings, royal Azure dynasty king. Chu Kuangren saw the royal Azure dynasty king at first glance. It was hard not to notice his golden dragon robe. No need for formalities. Come, have a seat. Thank you, royal Azure dynasty king. In a few days, you'll have to call me father like Linglong does. The royal Azure dynasty king smiled. Chu Kuangren smiled but did not say anything. The reason I called you here is to meet you. I also want to inform you that I'll announce you as the fiancé in 2 days. Understood. I'll leave it to you. All right. The royal Azure Dynasty king nodded and did not say anything else. Chu Kuangren was even more speechless. The two men sat together, and the atmosphere suddenly became a little awkward. The Empress has arrived. At that moment, a graceful and elegant woman walked over slowly. Her facial features bore some resemblance to Princess Linglong. Chu Kuangren stood up to welcome her. Greetings, Empress. Oh, you're Chu Kuangren, right? You're indeed a celestial being. No wonder my Linglong is so infatuated with you. You're flattering me, Empress. You're the true mother of the world. Chu Kuangren smiled. Hey, you're such a sweet talker. The Empress was very talkative. She talked about topics ranging from astronomy to geography, and in between all sorts of interesting anecdotes. Moreover, she was very observant. Once she realized that Chu Kuangren could not continue the conversation or was disinterested, she would subtly change the topic. Her arrival instantly warmed up the atmosphere. Kuangren, come visit the palace more often when you're free. The Empress said reluctantly before leaving. I will. Chapter 73. In the Royal Palace of the Royal Azure Kingdom. Due to the sudden cancellation of the martial arts contest, many forces were dissatisfied. Most forces only needed to compensate them a little. However, some sage orthodoxies were not so easily fooled. Hence, the Royal Azure Kingdom king set up a grand banquet to entertain these orthodoxy sky prides. In the luxurious palace, a group of sky prides gathered, looking at the delicacies before them. However, they had no intention of enjoying it at all. Their hearts were burning with anger. They had come all the way here to participate in the martial arts contest, yet it was suddenly cancelled. It would be strange if they did not mind. Everyone was waiting for the Royal Azure Kingdom king to give them an explanation. However, some people noticed an unfamiliar sky pride in the banquet. That person's seat was extremely close to the front, even closer to the main seat than Fangtian, Yuanhong, and the other top sky prides. Who is that? Some people were curious. However, at that moment, two figures walked into the palace. It was Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. Upon seeing him, the crowd started to discuss. What's Chu Kuangren doing here? Didn't they say he's not interested in the martial arts contest? Yeah, everyone here is here to demand an explanation for the martial arts contest. If this guy isn't interested, what's he doing here? Facing the puzzled looks from the crowd, Chu Kuangren remained calm. Under the guidance of a palace maid, he found his seat and sat down. He sat very close to the front in the same row as Guchanga. F***ck. Why am I sitting together with this guy? Guchanga cursed in her heart, feeling a little uncomfortable. Chu Kuangren did not mind at all. In fact, he was happy to see Guchanga's sullen look. Admittedly, he could be a little two-faced at times. Suddenly, a hostile gaze landed on him. When Chu Kuangren looked back, he saw that the green-robed cultivator was staring at him with intense hostility in his eyes. An unfamiliar sky pride? However, where did this hostility come from? Puzzled, Chu Kuangren used his eye of revelation to check. Shang Han, Shang clan's young emperor, Paradise Realm. Chu Kuangren came to a realization. So it's the Shang clan's young emperor. No wonder he's so hostile towards me. After all, I gave him a bad name. Chu Kuangren looked at Shang Han with pity. Crack! As if sensing the pity in Chu Kuangren's eyes, Shang Han clenched his fist and crushed the wine glass in his hand into dust. When the surrounding sky prides saw this, their hearts skipped a beat. This unfamiliar sky pride was not on good terms with Chu Kuangren. When they thought of this, they felt that Shang Han was much more pleasing to the eye. Some of them even felt that they were in the same boat. Perhaps all of them were sky prides who had been defeated by Chu Kuangren before. The king has arrived. The Royal Azure Dynasty king walked over with the Empress, followed by Princess Linglong. Upon seeing this, the crowd of sky prides stood up to welcome them. Most of them had their eyes on Princess Linglong, who was behind the Royal Azure Dynasty king. Today, Princess Linglong was dressed in an embroidered robe. Her hair was tied up with a 9-feathered phoenix hairpin. She had a beautiful face and a noble temperament. Chu Kuangren instinctively looked over as well. Their gazes met for a moment and then separated. However, in Shang Han's eyes, this scene was like a pair of intimate Taoist companions gazing at each other with a tacit understanding. There was an ambiguous feeling brewing. The haze in Shang Han's eyes deepened when he thought about this. Don't stand on ceremony, everyone. Take a seat. The Royal Azure Dynasty King smiled. Once everyone was seated, the Royal Azure Dynasty King went straight to the point. I know that everyone is dissatisfied with the martial arts contest. That's why I've arranged this banquet to explain and compensate everyone. After this banquet, your orthodoxies may send a representative to the treasury to pick a treasure. The Royal Azure Dynasty's treasury was where the Royal Azure Dynasty's heritage was located. There were countless treasures inside, and the Royal Azure Dynasty King's sincerity was evident by allowing them to pick a treasure. Only then did the dissatisfaction in everyone's hearts dissipate. After all, the Royal Azure Dynasty King did not want to participate in the martial arts contest. What else could they do? To be able to obtain a treasure without having to do anything was already a great thing for them. Although the treasure was definitely not as valuable as the godly essence, even if the martial arts contest were to continue, they would not be able to stand out. But this treasure was real and it could be obtained. I wonder if the Royal Azure Dynasty King can explain why the martial arts contest was suddenly cancelled? Fang Tian was still curious. That's what I'm about to say. The main reason for canceling the martial arts contest is that Linglong already has someone in her heart. Coincidentally, that person is among you. The Royal Azure Dynasty King smiled. Everyone looked at each other when they heard that. Who is it? Which be asterisk starred has won the princess heart? It can't be Chu Kuangren, right? The princess has shown interest in him a few times. That can't be. Didn't Chu Kuangren say that he has no interest in Princess Linglong? He didn't even want to participate in the martial arts contest. Then who could it be? Some people looked at Princess Linglong, trying to figure out something from her. However, they realized that her gaze was fixed somewhere. When they followed her gaze, all they saw was Chu Kuangren. Fang Tian, Yuan Hong, and the others' hearts skipped a beat. No way, no way, no way, is it really Chu Kuangren? This person is the Black Heaven Sect's elder senior brother, Chu Kuangren. While everyone was still in shock, the Royal Azure Dynasty King spoke. Everyone's gazes were instantly focused on Chu Kuangren. Besides that, I've already formed a marriage alliance with the Black Heaven Sect. From now on, Chu Kuangren will be the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Before the crowd could recover from their shock, the Royal Azure Dynasty ruler dropped another bombshell, causing everyone to be dumbfounded. Fang Tian, Yuan Hong, and the others looked at Chu Kuangren with bloodshot eyes. F***CKU. Didn't you say that you're not interested in the princess? How did you become the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty in the blink of an eye? It's bad enough that you've taken all the treasures in the secret realm, but now you want Princess Linglong as well. You're not giving us a chance at all. Everyone lost their composure. In their hearts, they cursed Chu Kuangren to no end. But what use is that? Not only did Chu Kuangren take all the treasures in the secret realm of the Luminous Moon, he even became the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty. Father, I don't agree. At that moment, Guchanga jumped out. Are you kidding me? If Chu Kuangren gets the godly essence and becomes the fiancé, I'll go crazy with anger. Shut up. The Royal Azure Dynasty King snorted with a cold gaze. You're the crown prince of the Royal Azure Dynasty. What a disgrace. He was the one who arranged the marriage alliance with the Black Heaven Sect. How could he cancel it just because Guchanga disagreed? Father, Chu Kuangren is too arrogant. He's definitely not a suitable candidate to be the fiancé. Guchanga said loudly. If I say he's suitable, then he's suitable. As for being arrogant, which young man isn't arrogant? What's wrong with that? Father, Crown Prince, are you drunk? Just as Guchanga was about to say something, the Royal Azure Dynasty King stared at him and said indifferently. That indifferent attitude was a sign of his anger. Chapter 74. The royal Azure Dynasty king had announced Chu Kuangren as the royal Azure Dynasty's fiancé. The Sky Prides who were present had mixed feelings about the alliance between the royal Azure Dynasty and the Black Heaven sect. How would it affect the power structure of the Azure Dragon domain? No matter what, Chu Kuangren becoming the fiancé was already an established fact. At the banquet, everyone looked at him with envy and jealousy. He possessed a supreme Taoist physique and was extremely talented. He was born in a sage orthodoxy, the Black Heaven sect, and had access to all kinds of cultivation resources. Now, he was the prince consort of the royal Azure Dynasty's Princess Linglong. Oh yes, there was also Lan Yu. She was dead set on him. What a cultivator wanted was nothing more than 4 words: Dharma, companions, wealth, and land. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, had taken everything by himself. How could they not be envious? Not jealous? Chu Kuangren sat where he was, completely unbothered by the piercing gazes that were directed at him from all directions. What, do you still dare to make a move? Not bad, brother Chu. Li Xingqian, who was sitting right next to Chu Kuangren, quickly went over to him with a face full of admiration. Look at him, he said that he was not interested, but he managed to capture Princess Linglong without anyone knowing. Awesome. Princess Linglong is of noble status, and she has the royal Azure Dynasty as her backing. Brother Chu, you're in for a great bargain, Li Xingqian said. I, on the other hand, feel that Princess Linglong must have cultivated for 8 lifetimes to be able to marry young master. Lan Yu, who was at the side, said. His tone sounded a little sour. Li Xingqian thought for a moment. That sounds reasonable. Chu Kuangren was handsome, talented, and had a high status. Compared to Princess Linglong, Chu Kuangren could be said to be even better. If Princess Linglong was said to be one of the best among the young female cultivators, then Chu Kuangren would be the one and only among the male cultivators. The more Li Xingqian thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. He lamented. When this news spreads, I wonder how many female cultivators will be heartbroken and cry. Is it that exaggerated? Chu Kuangren laughed. The royal Azure Dynasty is one of the top sage orthodoxies in the world. The prince consort should be one of the best in the world. At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. It was the young emperor of the Shang clan, Shang Han. Everyone looked over and heard him continue. I've heard that fellow cultivator Chu is a peerless talent. I'm Shang Han, and I'd like to learn a thing or two from you. Fang Tian, Yuan Hong, and the others looked at each other. What? They heard something. This person wanted to challenge Chu Kuangren? Are you kidding me? Are you courting death like this? Although they did not like Chu Kuangren, they had to admit that his strength was so strong that it made them feel hopeless. Even if they attacked together, they probably wouldn't be a match for him, but this person actually dared to challenge him. Could it be that water had gotten into his head? AI, he's asking to be humiliated. Fang Tian shook his head and said, challenging Chu Kuangren. Perhaps I would have thought of doing so in the past, but now, sigh. Saying too much makes me want to cry. Xiang Valley's Lin Badian could not help but sigh. Wait, Shang Han. Some prodigies suddenly realized that the name sounded familiar. Yuan Hong's pupils abruptly shrank. Shang, could it be the ancient aristocratic clan of the Vermilion Bird Realm, the Shang clan? Shang Han is the young emperor of the Shang clan. Everyone gasped when they heard the words young empress. He did not expect to see a young emperor here. The Shang clan is one of the sage orthodoxies in the Vermilion Phoenix region. Their strength is no weaker than the royal Azure Dynasty. So it's him, young Emperor Shang Han. No wonder he dared to challenge Chu Kuangren. Rumor has it that he's even stronger than Lei Ao. The banquet was instantly filled with discussions. Everyone looked at the young Emperor Shang Han with respect and curiosity in their eyes. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren, who was the one being challenged, sat on the ground and smiled. Brother Shang, are you sure you want to challenge me? Shang Han raised an eyebrow. Why? Can't I? No, it's just that I have a bad habit. I don't know when to stop. A few days ago, I accidentally killed a young emperor. I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. Chu Kuangren smiled. His words made the corners of everyone's mouths twitch uncontrollably. Accidentally killed a young emperor? If Lao could hear that, he would be so angry that he would come back to life. Everyone understood the hidden meaning behind those words. It seemed that Chu Kuangren did not take the young emperor of the Shang clan seriously at all. In other words, if he could accidentally kill a young emperor of the same level as him, how many more hits could he take from him? Shang Han's expression was as cold as ice. He glanced at Chu Kuangren and said, "Chu Kuangren, you didn't get the name wrong. It was given to me by my parents. I think it's fine. Kuangren, the Shang clan's young emperor has come all the way here. Since he's in the mood, there's no harm in playing with him," the royal Azure Dynasty ruler suddenly said. Chu Kuangren nodded. "Since the ruler has spoken, I won't decline. It's not convenient here, so let's fight outside." Without saying a word, Shang Han stood up and walked out of the palace. Outside the palace, Shang Han stood against the wind with his green robes fluttering in the wind. Taoist rhymes circulated around his body, and his domineering aura was suffocating. He's so strong. He's even stronger than Lao. Perhaps he can really take Chu Kuangren down a peg. Fang Tian, Yuan Hong, and the others looked at Shang Han with anticipation. They had been suppressed by Chu Kuangren too much. Now they desperately hoped that someone could stand up and give Chu Kuangren a blow. "I know you're strong. Even Lao died in your hands, but don't you dare compare me to him," Shang Han said indifferently. Chu Kuangren stood opposite him. "There's no difference." Shang Han did not hide his hostility towards him, so naturally, Chu Kuangren would not be nice to him either. His contempt was obvious. "There's a huge difference," Shang Han snorted coldly. Then, a ray of light circulated in his hand, and a black spear engraved with runes appeared. A surge of chilling Taoist rhymes instantly erupted. "Take this, soaring waterfall technique." Shang Han shook the spear in his hand, and a spear ray blasted out like a waterfall, slamming into the void. Chu Kuangren held the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand. With a gentle wave, a domineering purple sword ray pierced through the night sky, instantly shattering the spear ray. The terrifying sword ray immediately forced Shang Han to retreat a few dozen feet. His eyes narrowed, and he leaped high into the air, channeling his spiritual power to its limit. Violent Taoist rhymes condensed into a violent gale behind him. Sage technique, 9 Heavens Hurricane. That attack was extremely terrifying. An endless gale condensed on Shang Han's body, and as the spear descended, it carried the majestic force of the heavens and earth, pressuring him with its momentum. Fang Tian, Yuan Hong, Gu Chang'e, and the others stretched their necks, their faces filled with hope. He could win. Perhaps this attack could defeat Chu Kuangren. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. With a soft yell, a dazzling purple sword ray rose from the bottom to the top. Like a dragon emerging from the abyss, it instantly tore apart the raging gale and landed on Shang Han's body. With a clang, the spear flew out of Shang Han's hand and stabbed into the ground. Shang Han himself flew out and fell onto the ground like a rag. "I've told you, there's no difference." Chu Kuangren still stood where he was. From the beginning until the end, he did not move a single step. Fang Tian, Yuan Hong, and the others' hopes were dashed. "Another young emperor has lost," Fang Tian said bitterly. What were they hoping for? Someone who could defeat Chu Kuangren. Chapter 75. What a young emperor, to be able to withstand 2 of my attacks. Chu Kuangren smirked as he looked at Shang Han, who was lying on the ground. Those words made Fang Tian and the others' mouths twitch. A young emperor could only withstand 2 attacks? You're a young emperor. Can't you be more obvious with your taunts? Isn't he just hostile towards you? Was there a need to humiliate him like that? Everyone grumbled in their hearts, but no one dared to voice it out. Princess Linglong, who was beside the royal Azure Dynasty ruler, stared at the peerless Chu Kuangren with a glimmer in her eyes. This was the man who was going to marry her. He was indeed a peerless beauty. Which young lady would not yearn for love? Which young lady would not wish for their lover to be a peerless hero? Although the essence of this marriage was a transaction of mutual benefit, Princess Linglong's heart was filled with feelings at this moment. In terms of talent and looks, Chu Kuangren was definitely a celestial being, the only one in this world. Whoosh! An old man flew over to Shang Han's side and quickly helped him up. Young Emperor, are you all right? The old man was shocked to see Shang Han in such a sorry state. After all, he was a young emperor, a peerless sky pride of the firmament star. How could he be so weak before Chu Kuangren? That was impossible. The old man could not wrap his head around it. Shang Han could not understand it either. For so many years, he was almost invincible among his peers, but this was the first time he had experienced such a sense of defeat. Anger, dissatisfaction, humiliation, shock. All sorts of emotions surged in his chest as he stared at Chu Kuangren, as if he wanted to carve that face into his mind. Just you wait. I'll definitely come back for you. Shang Han left the palace with the old man after leaving that threat. Today's battle had shattered all of his pride, but it also gave him a new goal, to surpass Chu Kuangren. Your Taoist core is not bad, at least stronger than a certain crown prince, Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had no intention of killing his opponent here. Previously in the secret realm, Lei Ao was the one who wanted to kill him first. This time it was just a sparring match. The Shang clan would not let the matter rest so easily like the Thunder Falcon tribe. If an orthodoxy war were to break out, it would not be worth it. He was crazy. He never denied it. But even though he was mad, he was still able to see the big picture. Not far away, Gu Chang'e heard Chu Kuangren's words and was so angry that she almost vomited blood. That crown prince was definitely referring to him. The banquet continued after Shang Han left. When the banquet ended, each of the Sky Prides represented their respective orthodoxies to choose a treasure from the Qingyun treasure vault. In the garden of the palace, there was no one else around except for Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, and Princess Linglong. None of them spoke as they walked in silence. Father has said that we can decide the wedding ourselves. After all, the fact that you're the prince consort of the royal Azure dynasty can't be changed. Princess Linglong was the first to speak. Then what do you think? Chu Kuangren asked. You and I have only known each other for a few days. I had no choice but to do what happened in the secret realm. Although I admit that I am a little moved by you, it is only a little. I can't confirm whether or not I have fallen in love with you. Princess Linglong said frankly. The same goes for me. Although this marriage is a transaction, we are already husband and wife. I will take responsibility for it. So let's postpone the wedding for now. What do you plan to do next? Princess Linglong asked. I'm here to train myself, so I want to travel around. The firmament star was huge, and there were 4 domains in total. Chu Kuangren had not even finished exploring the Azure Dragon domain, so he still wanted to go to other places. As expected, you're a dragon among men. The royal Azure dynasty's small territory can't hold you back. Princess Linglong was not surprised at all. After a short conversation, the two opened up their hearts and became closer to each other. The next day, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu left the palace. The news of him becoming the royal Azure dynasty's prince consort had spread throughout the capital city. Even the entire Azure Dragon domain was shocked by the news. Holy **T. Chu Kuangren has become the royal Azure dynasty's prince consort? Did the royal Azure dynasty form an alliance with the Black Heaven sect? These two sage orthodoxies are planning to protect Chu Kuangren's path of cultivation. By the heavens, this is unprecedented. Chu Kuangren's rise to power is unstoppable. What? Chu Kuangren is already a peerless genius. If he gets the help of the godly essence, how powerful will he become? With Chu Kuangren in this world, it's impossible for anyone else to become an emperor. Some were shocked by the speed of Chu Kuangren's rise, while others were worried about the alliance between the two sage orthodoxies. However, there were also some who were devastated by the news. For example, the female cultivators of the Black Heaven sect. The royal Azure dynasty's prince consort? Sob, my elder senior brother. By the heavens! How many lifetimes does Princess Linglong have to cultivate her good fortune to be able to tie the knot with elder senior brother? I can't accept this. I don't care, elder senior brother belongs to everyone. Elder senior brother, I wish you all the best. Sisters, don't be sad. Although elder senior brother is married to Princess Linglong, he's still our elder senior brother. That's right, I still like elder senior brother. Even if he marries someone else, as long as I like him, that's enough. The news of Chu Kuangren's marriage made the female cultivators of the Black Heaven sect depressed for a few days. It was said that even Elder Ruyan was not in a good mood. It was said that Elder Ruyan was seen looking in the direction of the Royal Azure dynasty from a cliff with a worried expression. She even muttered things like, "Princess Linglong is lucky," and "When I was born, my husband was not born yet, and when he was born, I was already old." Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren had already left the Royal Azure capital city. He took a ferry boat from the Royal Azure dynasty and flew in a random direction. Although he had no destination, he was still carefree. Only Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu were on the ferry boat. As for Li Xingqian, his father, Li Yi, had already brought him back to the White Cloud City. In the era of great battles, all the Sky Prides were ready to go. Since Li Xingqian was extremely talented, Li Yi naturally would not let him roam around. "My two seniors, are there any good places to train?" On the ferry boat, Chu Kuangren curiously asked the void behind him. Other than the seventh forefather who was secretly guarding him, the Royal Azure dynasty had also sent a protector to show their sincerity in forming an alliance. The firmament star is huge. With our protection, you can go anywhere except for the 10 great forbidden areas. The seventh forefather smiled. The 10 great forbidden areas he mentioned were the 10 most dangerous places in the firmament star. It was said that even sages might not come out alive. Although Chu Kuangren was curious, he did not want to die yet. "I heard that you killed a sage in the secret realm of the luminous moon and saved everyone. Perhaps you can take this opportunity to visit the other orthodoxies." The voice of an old lady came from the void. It was the protector of the Royal Azure dynasty. Her words made Chu Kuangren's eyes light up. Other than the Black Heaven sect and the Royal Azure dynasty, there were 6 other sage orthodoxies in the Azure Dragon domain. These were the School of White Lotus, 5 Ways sect, Jiang Valley, Dharma sect, Sacred Lands of Serene Wisdom, and Thunder Temple. Each of these sage orthodoxies had their own unique techniques. He had an extremely high understanding of Taoism, but he did not know many techniques. His understanding of techniques was far inferior to Taoism. Perhaps he could take this opportunity to visit the various sage orthodoxies and see their techniques. All right, I'll visit each of the sage orthodoxies one by one. I hope they won't be too unwelcoming. Chapter 76. The School of White Lotus was located in the southern countries of the Azure Dragon domain, ruling over almost 30 countries. Compared to the other sage orthodoxies, the School of White Lotus had a strong religious atmosphere. Almost all the people in the southern countries believed in the School of White Lotus, and this was all because of a terrible war 20,000 years ago. Legend had it that 20,000 years ago, a demonic beast from hell wreaked havoc in the southern countries, slaughtering countless lives and causing the people to lose their homes. It was an extremely dark era that was still engraved in the history books of the southern countries, filled with blood and tears. It was at that time that a sage ruler appeared out of nowhere and suppressed the demonic beast, saving the billions of lives in the southern countries. That sage ruler was the founder of the School of White Lotus, the White Lotus Sage Ruler. It had been many years since the White Lotus Sage Ruler passed away, but his deeds were still widely spread in the southern countries. Countless people still worshipped him as a deity and worshipped him as their faith. The School of White Lotus was happy to see this happen, and they used this opportunity to solidify their rule. The Full Moon Kingdom, the largest country in the southern countries. The School of White Lotus's headquarters. Chu Kuangren strolled along the streets of the Full Moon Kingdom. Most people around him wore white robes, skirts, and hats, and very few wore other clothing. It was rumored that the White Lotus Sage ruler loved white and loved white clothes. As the country with the highest concentration of believers, The Full Moon Kingdom's people also continued this preference. Lan Yu, do you think it's a good idea for me to visit you empty-handed? Chu Kuangren touched his chin and said. It had been 2 days since he arrived in the southern countries. He had been enjoying the local customs and did not pay the School of White Lotus a visit immediately. However, now that he had enough fun, it was time to get down to business. Do you want to buy some fruits? Chu Kuangren stopped beside a fruit stall and waved his hand, buying all the fruits in the stall. Thank you, master. Thank you. The vendor who received the soul stones thanked him profusely. I don't think it's enough, Chu Kuangren murmured. The other vendors who were initially envious of their peers immediately rushed over and started to promote their fruits. Master, my apple is big and juicy. The red color looks festive too. I also have grapes, plums. Master, my banana is watered with spiritual marrow. Do you think a normal banana is as straight as mine? Look at mine, young master. Chu Kuangren, who was surrounded by a group of hawkers, let out a faint smile. Then, like a tycoon, he took out a bunch of soul stones and bought all the fruits. The 2 Dao protectors guarding in secret were dumbfounded. Bringing fruits to visit a sage orthodoxy? This was the first time they had seen something like this. White Lotus headquarters. In a large hall, several elders were gathered together to examine this year's offerings from all over the country. At that moment, a disciple walked in. Elder. A cultivator who calls himself Chu Kuangren has come to visit. Who? One of the elders was stunned. Chu Kuangren. Many disciples had gathered in the School of White Lotus. They stared curiously at Chu Kuangren, and some of the female cultivators could not take their eyes off him. Some of them even started drooling. He's Chu Kuangren, the most popular sky pride in Firmament Star right now. I heard that even the young emperor is no match for him. He's really too handsome. To think that Princess Linglong could marry such a person. If it were me, I would probably wake up laughing in my dreams every day. Yeah. Look, he's looking over. He's so handsome. Chu Kuangren stood at the entrance, waiting for someone to welcome him. Not long after, an elder with white hair and beard walked up. Chu Kuangren recognized him as one of the honorables at the secret realm that day. Junior Chu, I apologize for not going out to meet you. The elder came in front of Chu Kuangren with a smile on his face. But in his heart, he was cursing at this little b*** starred. Why would he suddenly visit the School of White Lotus? What was he up to this time? Greetings, senior. I'm here at your invitation to visit the School of White Lotus and exchange some cultivation insights with you. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Invitation? The elder was confused. Since when did he invite Chu Kuangren? That's right. Back at the secret realm, you said that I'm welcome to visit the School of White Lotus anytime. Don't you remember? I remember. The elder remembered. When Chu Kuangren killed the Black Light Sage in the secret realm and saved the sky prides of the sage orthodoxies, the honorables had expressed their gratitude to him. Things like welcoming him as a guest and welcoming him with open arms. However, those were just words of courtesy. Who knew that Chu Kuangren would really come to visit a few days later? What else could he do? He could only welcome Chu Kuangren, but he could not possibly chase him out. If word got out, the Royal Azure Dynasty and the Black Heaven sect would come looking for him. Junior Chu, please come in. The elder welcomed Chu Kuangren into the School of White Lotus. By the way, I bought some greeting gifts on my way here, Chu Kuangren suddenly said. He then took out baskets of fruits from his yin and yang ring and placed them in front of everyone. The elder's mouth twitched. Chu Kuangren was visiting a sage orthodoxy with fruits as a greeting gift. That was definitely a gift from a cultivator to the world of gifts. Junior Chu, you're too kind. The elder called a few disciples over to take the fruits away. Chu Kuangren. At that moment, a cry of surprise was heard. A young man's expression changed when he saw Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren looked over and saw that it was the White Lotus Bachelor Sage whose arm was severed by him in the secret realm. He smiled and said, Ah, it's a Bachelor Sage. How have you been? Oh, your arm has been reattached. Congratulations. In this world, There was no shortage of treasures that could reattach severed arms. With the resources of the School of White Lotus, it was not difficult to reattach the White Lotus Bachelor Sage's arm. All he needed was some time to adapt. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, the White Lotus Bachelor Sage's expression turned gloomy. His reattached arm began to ache. Chu Kuangren's sword attack had traumatized him greatly. I've heard that Brother Chu has come to visit. What a surprise. The White Lotus Maiden Sage appeared too. Greetings, Maiden Sage. I've heard that Brother Chu has a marriage alliance with Princess Linglong. Why aren't you in the palace at this time? Why do you have the time to visit the School of White Lotus? Heh, a real man should be ambitious. How can he indulge in the pleasures of women? Chu Kuangren casually replied. Brother Chu, you have great ambitions. Since you're here, why don't you spar with Wanqing? The White Lotus Maiden Sage invited him. That's what I was thinking. Chu Kuangren nodded. He had come here to witness the cultivation techniques of the School of White Lotus. Since the White Lotus Maiden Sage was the most outstanding sky pride among the younger generation of the School of White Lotus, she was the most suitable candidate to spar with. Soon, the news of the White Lotus Maiden Sage and Chu Kuangren's spar spread throughout the School of White Lotus. Even the few bachelor sages were shocked. In a pavilion in the School of White Lotus, Chu Kuangren and the White Lotus Maiden Sage sat opposite each other with their legs crossed. Maiden Sage, please. Then let me start first. A majestic surge of Taoist rhyme gushed out from the White Lotus Maiden Sage's body and surrounded the surroundings before it surged towards Chu Kuangren. Chapter 77. In the pavilion of the School of White Lotus. The White Lotus Maiden Sage sat with her legs crossed as her Taoist rhymes filled the air. She was silently sparring with Chu Kuangren, and a surge of Taoist rhymes gradually appeared on Chu Kuangren's body. That surge of Taoist rhymes was extremely sharp and powerful. It was like a divine sword that showed off its brilliance. Two different Taoist rhymes intertwined and collided in the air. There are three most famous techniques in the School of White Lotus. They are the Supreme White Lotus Scripture, the Light of Purification, and the Sun Piercer. Brother Chu, please have a taste of my Sun Piercer. The White Lotus Maiden Sage said. The Taoist rhymes on her body circulated in the air and suddenly formed into a human figure that swung its palms at Chu Kuangren. The crowd was amazed at the sight. She's indeed a Maiden Sage. Her Sun Piercer has been cultivated to the point of perfection. It's not inferior to the elders. Indeed, it's admirable. I also want to spar with you, Maiden Sage. You're thinking too much. Everyone stared at the pavilion without blinking. At that moment, Taoist rhymes gathered above Chu Kuangren's head and turned into a sword of the heavens with 9 holes on its blade. It then shot out a sword ray. The sword ray was like a rainbow that tore through the Sun Piercer in the blink of an eye. What a sharp sword, Tao! The White Lotus Maiden Sage was secretly shocked. She then unleashed all kinds of techniques from the School of White Lotus, and the sky was suddenly filled with beautiful flowers. However, no matter how many techniques the White Lotus Maiden Sage unleashed, the sword of the heavens above Chu Kuangren's head broke through all of them. He's so strong. No wonder he's the famous Chu Kuangren. Is this the power of a supreme sky pride? How deep is his understanding of sword Tao? It's terrifying. Chu Kuangren broke through all techniques with a single sword. That kind of power shocked everyone at the scene. Light of Purification. Seeing that she could not break through Chu Kuangren's defense, the White Lotus Maiden Sage activated another top-notch technique from the School of White Lotus. A dazzling white light bloomed as if it wanted to purify all the impurities in the world. It then surged towards Chu Kuangren. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Chu Kuangren shouted. The sword of the heavenly Tao suddenly trembled, and a purple sword gleam whizzed out, piercing into the white light and completely tearing apart the Taoist rhyme within. The White Lotus Saintess Taoist rhyme suddenly dispersed. She took a deep breath and said, I've lost this sparring session. Her Tao and techniques were completely incomparable to Chu Kuangren's. The Saintess lost? Sigh, what can we do? He's Chu Kuangren after all. Amazing. In the void, there were also a few figures spying on them. They were the elders of the School of White Lotus. They had been watching the sparring session from the beginning to the end. They were not surprised to see the White Lotus Saintess lose. They were well aware of how strong Chu Kuangren was. He could even defeat a young emperor, let alone the White Lotus Maiden Sage. This kid's Tao is the one sword to destroy all things, and it's already in its embryonic form. In the future, it will be extremely terrifying. Chu Kuangren is truly extraordinary. The few elders of the School of White Lotus were secretly exclaiming in admiration. Meanwhile, in the pavilion, Chu Kuangren had also retracted his Taoist rhyme. He had gained quite a lot from this sparring session, and his understanding of techniques had increased. The sparring session is to verify what one has learned. If one is only obsessed with winning or losing, then it's not worth it, Chu Kuangren said. Brother Chu, you're right. The White Lotus Maiden Sage nodded. After that, the White Lotus Maiden Sage arranged for Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu to stay in the School of White Lotus for a few days. The next day, early morning, Chu Kuangren got up and opened the fantasy roulette as usual. He did not have high hopes of getting anything good at first. After all, he had just gotten the treasure locating skill not too long ago. Congratulations, host, for getting the legendary attribute, meditational clarity. What? Chu Kuangren suspected that there was something wrong with his ears. Legendary? Did he get a legendary item again? Impossible, impossible, impossible. Chu Kuangren opened the fantasy roulette space and saw a white orb lying inside. There was even a note beside it. Legendary attribute, meditational clarity. Chu Kuangren was stunned. Then, a look of joy appeared on his face. Holy sh*T. I'm so lucky. He had just gotten the treasure locating skill a few days ago, and now he got a legendary attribute. Felt surreal to him. Withdraw the meditational clarity, Chu Kuangren muttered in his heart. Instantly, an incomparably mysterious feeling surged into his heart. Chu Kuangren closed his eyes and had an intoxicated look on his face. When he opened his eyes again, he felt that the whole world was different. It was clearer. It was not a clearer vision, but a clearer understanding of the nature of the world. The meditational clarity was an attribute related to enlightenment. It made it easier for Chu Kuangren to quickly understand various techniques. His enlightenment was already very high, and now with the addition of the meditational clarity, it was hard to imagine how far he could go. After Chu Kuangren calmed down, he opened the door and opened his arms to receive the sun. Ah, what a beautiful day! Master. Lan Yu, who came to wake Chu Kuangren up, was stunned. She was puzzled by her master's strange behavior early in the morning. Cough cough, Lan Yu, good morning. Good morning, master. The two of them had breakfast under the guidance of the servants from the School of White Lotus. After that, the White Lotus Maiden Sage acted as a tour guide and brought the two of them around as if they were on a sightseeing tour. The three of them came to a mountain wall. This mountain wall was as smooth as a mirror, and there was a huge mural engraved on it. It was a vivid and lifelike white lotus, shining brilliantly under the sunlight. It was a magnificent sight. There were many disciples from the School of White Lotus in front of the mountain wall. They were scratching their heads as they visualized the mural. Chu Kuangren even saw the White Lotus Bachelor Sage. What are they doing here? Chu Kuangren asked. Rumor has it that the White Lotus Sage ruler, the founder of the School of White Lotus, once gained enlightenment in front of this mountain wall and created the supreme sage ruler technique, the White Lotus Light of Purification. These disciples are trying to emulate the founder's enlightenment, the White Lotus Maiden Sage said. Can they emulate that too? Chu Kuangren was stunned. If it was that easy to emulate a sage ruler, the sages would have been running around the world by now. Brother Chu, this mountain wall is extraordinary. It indeed contains the Taoist rhymes left behind by our founder. The Light of Purification, one of the three main techniques of the School of White Lotus, was derived from this mountain wall. However, it's only a fragment, not even 1/10 of the original. The White Lotus Maiden Sage sighed. Chu Kuangren nodded. I see. His interest was piqued, so he went up to look at the mountain wall. When the people around him saw him, they started to discuss among themselves. Chu Kuangren, what's he doing here? Does he also want to gain enlightenment from the white lotus light of purification left behind by our founder? What a joke. He's not even a member of the school of White Lotus. If he doesn't cultivate our techniques, how can he possibly gain enlightenment from it? Ever since our founder passed away, the White Lotus light of purification has been lost. Every generation of the school of White Lotus has tried to gain enlightenment from this mountain wall, but no one has succeeded. How can he do it? The White Lotus bachelor sage walked up and looked at Chu Kuangren. Why, Brother Chu, are you trying to gain enlightenment from the White Lotus light of purification? Chapter 78. How could Chu Kuangren not know what the White Lotus bachelor sage was thinking? However, he did not reject him. Sage ruler technique, White Lotus light of purification. Such a technique was right in front of him, waiting for him to comprehend it. Naturally, he would not let it go. Let's wait and see. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He then slowly walked to the front of the mountain wall and stared at the mural, his mind gradually immersed in it. When the White Lotus sage saw this, he could not help but scoff. What a joke! Generations of prodigies from the school of White Lotus have tried to comprehend it for countless years, but none of them managed to comprehend the White Lotus light of purification. You, an outsider, want to comprehend it? The White Lotus light of purification could be said to be the source of all the cultivation techniques of the school of White Lotus. Generations of sky prides had to comprehend the techniques of the school of White Lotus to a certain extent before they could successfully comprehend the White Lotus light of purification. However, Chu Kuangren was not a disciple of the school of White Lotus and had never learned the techniques of the school of White Lotus, so how could he possibly understand the White Lotus light of purification? Do you really think you're omnipotent? The White Lotus saint sneered. The others also thought that it was impossible, but that did not stop them from enjoying the show. Each of them stared at Chu Kuangren, waiting for him to be defeated. However, they soon realized that something was amiss. As Chu Kuangren stared at the mural, an incredibly mysterious Taoist rhyme began to emanate from his body. There was a white light circulating around him that was gentle and holy. This Taoist rhyme, it's the world-cleansing technique. The White Lotus Maiden Saint's expression changed slightly. She cultivated the world-cleansing technique and was very familiar with this Taoist rhyme. However, why would Chu Kuangren have such a Taoist rhyme? What the hell was going on? The White Lotus Saintess was confused, and the others were even more confused. Chu Kuangren, what happened? The White Lotus bachelor sage's heart suddenly skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling about this. Just as he was about to step forward, Lan Yu took a step forward and stood in front of him. The master is meditating. No one is to disturb him. Lan Yu's gaze was cold as he swept his gaze across everyone present. A magnificent silver-white armor had already covered his body, and he was ready for battle. No one is allowed to disturb fellow Taoist Chu, the White Lotus Saintess said. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. She had tried to gain insights from this mural before, but she could not get any results no matter what. Could Chu Kuangren do it? In Chu Kuangren's eyes, the murals on the mountain wall were no longer just murals. The petals, veins, roots, and other parts of the White Lotus were filled with a mysterious Taoist rhyme. It was gentle, holy, and vast. Gradually, Chu Kuangren entered an ethereal state. Everything in the world disappeared at this moment. His heart was unprecedentedly clear and transparent, and his comprehension of the Tao rhyme was also incomparably clear. Meditative anatta. Chu Kuangren, who had entered the meditational clarity state, quickly gained insight into the Taoist rhymes on the murals. A technique gradually emerged in his mind. In a trance, Chu Kuangren saw a middle-aged woman dressed in white sitting cross-legged in midair. She had a smile on her face as she formed a hand seal. White lotuses appeared around her, and each of them contained an exquisite Taoist rhyme. If Chu Kuangren was not mistaken, that person was the White Lotus Sage ruler. The outside world. The Taoist rhymes that circulated around Chu Kuangren's body became more and more mysterious, and the range of its influence also continued to expand until it covered more than half of the School of White Lotus's headquarters. Many experts in the main altar were alarmed. This Tao rhythm is the world-cleansing scripture? No, it's even more complete and mysterious than the world-cleansing scripture. Could it be? Let's go and have a look. How many years has it been? Is the School of White Lotus finally going to have a sky pride who can gain insight into the complete White Lotus light of purification? Haha! The heavens have blessed the School of White Lotus. One by one, the experts of the School of White Lotus rushed to the scene. However, when they saw Chu Kuangren standing in front of the murals with a mysterious Taoist rhyme, they were all dumbfounded. How could it be him? Maiden Sage, what's going on? One of the elders asked. The White Lotus Maiden Sage immediately told them what happened. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief when they heard that. What kind of joke was this? The School of White Lotus had been trying so hard to gain insight into the world-cleansing scripture for countless years to no avail. Were they going to let an outsider do it now? What should we do if Chu Kuangren manages to gain insight into the world-cleansing scripture? One of the elders asked doubtfully. Don't jump to conclusions yet. He's still in the midst of gaining insight. Perhaps he only managed to gain insight into the incomplete world-cleansing scripture. Another elder said. The complete White Lotus light of purification and the incomplete world-cleansing scripture were two different concepts. If it was only the incomplete world-cleansing scripture, it would still be acceptable even though it was shocking. However, if it was the complete White Lotus mind-cleansing scripture, then they would be in deep trouble. The White Lotus light of purification was the source of all techniques in the School of White Lotus. Mastering the White Lotus light of purification would allow one to suppress all the techniques in the School of White Lotus. It would be fine if this technique was in the hands of the School of White Lotus, but if it was in the hands of the enemy, then the consequences would be unimaginable. To exaggerate a little, this was related to the survival of the entire orthodoxy. The group of elders stared at Chu Kuangren, hoping that he could only gain insight into the incomplete world-cleansing scripture and not the complete one. It was a torturous feeling. Some of them wanted to interrupt Chu Kuangren, but the two Honorable Supreme's auras in the void were staring at them, so they dared not do anything rash. Buzz! At that moment, the space around Chu Kuangren began to ripple. A burst of dazzling white light erupted, and white lotuses began to form in the void. The phenomenon shot straight into the sky and covered the entire firmament. All the cultivators in the School of White Lotus could see it clearly. At that moment, everyone felt as if their cultivation base was being suppressed. Even the honorables were not spared. The few elders swallowed their saliva. Their faces were filled with shock. The complete White Lotus light of purification. He really gained insight into the complete White Lotus light of purification. Oh my God! The entire School of White Lotus was shocked. The people who were near the School of White Lotus also saw this phenomenon. Look, it's the White Lotus light of purification. Could it be that the White Lotus Sage Ruler has manifested? Greetings, Sage Ruler. The Sage Ruler is a meritorious person. Countless worshippers who worshipped the White Lotus Sage Ruler knelt on the ground, praising the Sage Ruler for his meritorious deed. Within the School of White Lotus, a group of cultivators stared at Chu Kuangren in shock. All the techniques they had cultivated originated from the White Lotus light of purification. Now that Chu Kuangren had mastered this technique, the Taoist rhyme that manifested made them instinctively want to worship him. Oh my God! He really did it. The sky prides of the School of White Lotus have spent countless years trying to understand this technique. Yet he managed to do it all by himself. Not only that, but he did it in such a short time. This guy is just too terrifying. The School of White Lotus, from the ordinary disciples to the bachelor sages, saintesses, and even the elders, were all dumbfounded. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren's state of mind slowly came out of the meditative clarity state, and the White Lotus light of purification around him gradually dissipated. As expected of a sage ruler technique, it's not any weaker than the avarice technique. In fact, it might even be slightly stronger. It's almost at the threshold of an emperor technique. Chu Kuangren murmured with a satisfied look on his face. Mastering this sage ruler technique would be a great help to him. Quick, surround him. An elder suddenly yelled. A group of honorables hurriedly went forward and surrounded Chu Kuangren. In the void, the seventh forefather and an old lady walked out. The aura of an honorable supreme emanated as they looked around coldly. Chapter 79. What are you doing? The seventh forefather and an old lady with a walking stick protected Chu Kuangren. The aura of an honorable supreme filled the air and locked onto the few honorables present. As long as they made any strange movements, he would immediately make a move. The few honorables did not dare to act recklessly due to the supreme honorable's domineering aura. They looked at Chu Kuangren with an incomparably complicated gaze. Even in their dreams, they hoped that someone would be able to comprehend the White Lotus light of purification. However, when this person wasn't a member of the White Lotus Society, they couldn't sit still anymore. This was related to the foundation of an entire orthodoxy. How could this be controlled by an outsider? All of you stop. At that moment, a female voice rang out in the air. A middle-aged woman dressed in white robes stepped through the air. Taoist runes flickered deep within Chu Kuangren's eyes. Bai Qing, the sect master of the School of White Lotus, a supreme honorable realm cultivator. Even the White Lotus School's high priestess was alarmed by him. This time, things seemed to have gotten a little out of hand. Chu Kuangren thought to himself, "Greetings, sect leader." Everyone hurriedly bowed to her. Meanwhile, the White Lotus leader walked up to Chu Kuangren and stared deeply into his eyes. "Junior Chu, can you tell me the details of how you managed to comprehend the White Lotus light of purification?" "I just looked at the painting and comprehended it," Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The corners of everyone's mouths twitched uncontrollably. What kind of joke was this? The School of White Lotus had spent so much time and effort, yet they were still unable to comprehend it. Yet they were able to comprehend it just by looking at the murals? Was there anything more devastating than this? These murals contain the Tao that my ancestor left behind. It is the White Lotus light of purification. Such a technique can only be understood and not taught. Therefore, other than my ancestor, no one else has been able to understand it. Little friend Chu's comprehension is amazing. It's admirable. The White Lotus hierarch sighed. Even though she was a little disappointed, she knew that a technique like the White Lotus light of purification was not something that could be obtained by force. "Young friend Chu, I have a request that I hope you can agree to," the White Lotus High Priestess suddenly said. "Senior, please speak. I would like to invite you to be the White Lotus School's sage." The crowd burst into an uproar. Let Chu Kuangren become the School of White Lotus Bachelor Sage? How can this be? What is sect master thinking about? The White Lotus Bachelor Sage's expression changed, and he immediately objected. "Leader, you can't do that. This Chu Kuangren has secretly learned the School of White Lotus's sage ruler technique. We must investigate this matter. How can we allow him to be the White Lotus Bachelor Sage?" He had a grudge against Chu Kuangren, so naturally, he did not want to see Chu Kuangren gain power. However, the leader of the White Lotus cult said, "This mountain wall has been here for 20,000 years. Anyone can come here to comprehend it, but whether or not they can comprehend it depends on their own abilities. How can you say that you stole it? Furthermore, young friend Chu is talented and has comprehended the White Lotus light of purification. You are more than qualified to be the White Lotus sect's holy son." The White Lotus leader had already made up her mind. She stared straight at Chu Kuangren. At the side, the other elders didn't know what they were thinking, but they didn't stop them. The implications of the White Lotus light of purification were too great. If they could not kill Chu Kuangren, then they could only try their best to get closer to him. Obviously, the price of the former was too high. Chu Kuangren was the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect and the fiancé of the Royal Azure dynasty. If Chu Kuangren were to be killed, the two sage orthodoxies would definitely not let the matter rest. Compared to the former, the latter was much simpler. Turn him into one of their own. That way, They would not have to worry about the White Lotus light of purification turning on the school of White Lotus. They would have another talented bachelor sage. Killing two birds with one stone. The group of elders silently praised the White Lotus leader in their hearts. I'm afraid of your kind intentions, leader, but I'm already the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect. I can't agree to this. Chu Kuangren said. You're worried about the Black Heaven sect. Don't worry. I'll talk to your honorable teacher about this. Stay here for a few more days. If you have any requests, I'll try my best to fulfill them. The White Lotus leader smiled. Then, all right. Chu Kuangren nodded. He did not plan to leave immediately, so staying for a few more days would not hurt. Black Heaven sect. Honorable Xianqi was sitting in front of a stone tablet. This stone tablet was the Dao tablet, and on it was the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique that Chu Kuangren had created in the library. Ever since Chu Kuangren entered the world, Honorable Xianqi had been studying this sword technique day and night. Although he had not fully mastered it, he had gained some insights. Every time he studied it, he would sigh. Who would have thought that this unparalleled offensive sage ruler technique was created by a young junior? Every time he thought of this, a sense of pride would grow in his heart. Such an outstanding Chu Kuangren was his disciple. He was the one who named this sage ruler technique. Ha! Suddenly, Honorable Xianqi's face showed a little surprise. Not far away, a white lotus came with the wind and landed in front of him, turning into a beautiful woman in a white robe. Honorable Xianqi, long time no see. The woman was the White Lotus leader. Oh, what a rare occasion for the White Lotus leader to come all the way here to find me. What's the matter? Honorable Xianqi smiled faintly. They were all cultivators of the same generation and had many interactions when they were young. Now that they met again, it was like old friends catching up. It's about Chu Kuangren, the White Lotus leader said lightly. Honorable Xianqi's expression turned serious. Speak. Then, the White Lotus leader told him about how Chu Kuangren was studying the White Lotus light of purification in the school of White Lotus and how she wanted him to become a bachelor sage. After listening, even Honorable Xianqi was a little dumbfounded. Then he laughed out loud. Good. You are indeed my disciple. You are indeed extraordinary and talented. The White Lotus leader rolled her eyes, but in her heart, she was a little envious that Honorable Xianqi had such a disciple. It would be great if she was the one who accepted this disciple. All right, let's get down to business. Chu Kuangren's talent is too terrifying. Do you really have the confidence to protect him with just the Black Heaven sect and the Royal Azure Dynasty? Why don't you add the school of White Lotus into the mix? The White Lotus leader said calmly. Let me think. What else is there to think about? This matter will only benefit him. With our three great sage orthodoxies protecting him, at least in the Azure Dragon domain, no one can touch him. I need to talk to the Royal Azure Dynasty King about this. Honorable Xianqi contacted the Royal Azure Dynasty King for a discussion. In the end, the leaders of the two orthodoxies agreed to the White Lotus leader's request. With Chu Kuangren as the link, the three great sage orthodoxies could form an alliance to a certain extent, seeking space for common development. I'll talk to Kuangren about this. All right, I'll take my leave then. After the discussion, the White Lotus leader's spiritual thought immediately dissipated. Honorable Xianqi remained where he was and lamented. Three great sage orthodoxies are protecting a single person. This is something that has never happened before. Chu Kuangren suddenly received a message from his Honorable Xianqi in the School of White Lotus, asking if he was willing to become the School of White Lotus Bachelor Sage. You don't have to do anything. For now, you just need to be a nominal member. You can continue to train, Honorable Xianqi said. Sure. Chu Kuangren nodded and agreed. Having the title of a bachelor sage and having the protection of three great sage orthodoxies was a good thing that many people could only dream of. Since Honorable Xianqi had agreed, Chu Kuangren had no reason to refuse. Just like that, besides being the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect and the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty, Chu Kuangren now had another title. Chapter 80. News of Chu Kuangren becoming a bachelor sage spread throughout the school of White Lotus in no time at all, shocking countless disciples. Before this, they had only heard of Chu Kuangren's name, and it was not positive news either. Things like declaring war on the entire world, destroying the entire White Cloud City Lord residence, and plundering the secret realm. Everyone thought that Chu Kuangren was an evil person. Yet now, this evil person had become their bachelor sage? That was just too dramatic. I wonder what the leader and the others are thinking about Chu Kuangren becoming our bachelor sage. This is just too reckless. You guys don't know this, but Chu Kuangren has gained insights into the White Lotus light of purification left behind by our ancestors. It's impossible not to make him a bachelor sage. That's right. This is just too magical. So many sky prides in the school of White Lotus have failed to gain insights into the White Lotus light of purification. So why did Chu Kuangren do it? That's right. Countless disciples in the school of White Lotus were discussing among themselves. A few female cultivators gathered together, and one of them said, "Do you guys think Chu Kuangren looks like a burly man?" "I don't think so. I heard that he looks like an immortal." "That's just a rumor. Nowadays, anyone who looks slightly better will be praised to death," the female cultivator said nonchalantly. At that moment, the crowd gasped. "Look, it's Chu Kuangren. Extraordinary indeed. Extraordinary and refined." The female cultivators looked over and saw the immortal-like Chu Kuangren walking past them with Lan Yu in tow. "Wow, he's just like the rumors say. No, he's even better looking than the rumors say. He looks like an immortal descending from the heavens." "That's right, he's so handsome." The female cultivator who belittled Chu Kuangren earlier stood there in a daze. She only regained her senses after Chu Kuangren had walked far away. "I hereby announce that from today onward, I fully support Chu Kuangren as our bachelor sage. I'll fight anyone who disagrees." "Me too." Chu Kuangren brought Lan Yu around the school of White Lotus, and unknowingly he had gained a lot of fans. In the school of White Lotus's main hall, the White Lotus leader looked at the luxurious white robe in front of her and smiled in satisfaction. She then turned to Chu Kuangren and said, "These are the clothes to be worn during the conferral ceremony. Take a look and see if there are any areas that you would like to improve." "It's up to you, senior." Chu Kuangren chuckled. In any case, he was handsome and looked good in anything. "Yes, after the crowning ceremony, we will announce it to the world. At that time, the three great sage orthodoxies will protect you." The leader of the White Lotus cult smiled faintly as a hint of surprise flashed through her eyes. Three great sage orthodoxies were protecting one person. This kind of thing could be said to be unprecedented. "Thank you, sect leader." Soon, the school of White Lotus conferring ceremony arrived. In the capital of the Full Moon Kingdom, there was a high platform. This was the place where the conferment ceremony would be held. The Holy Sun would be conferred in front of countless believers. On the high platform, the king of the Great Moon Kingdom and the leader of the White Lotus School sat on one side. Below the platform, countless believers filled the streets. Everyone was looking forward to the appearance of the new saint. Rumor has it that the new saint has gained insights into the cultivation techniques left behind by the sage ruler. I wonder if that's true. I'm really looking forward to it. Of course it's true. 2 days ago, there were white lotuses all over the sky. It's not like you guys didn't see it. How can that phenomenon be faked? That's great. Yeah, after so many years, someone has finally gained insights into the techniques left behind by the sage ruler. The sage ruler finally has a successor. The crowd was discussing fervently. Due to the phenomenon of white lotuses all over the sky 2 days ago, the crowd's enthusiasm for this crowning ceremony was unprecedentedly high. On the high platform, the king of the Full Moon Kingdom asked curiously, "Leader, did this saint really gain insights into the techniques left behind by the sage ruler?" The leader of the White Lotus School nodded slightly. Upon receiving the answer, the king of the Full Moon Kingdom was first shocked, then overjoyed. He exclaimed, "The sage ruler finally has a successor. Yes, he's an outstanding young man." The leader of the White Lotus School smiled. The king of the Full Moon Kingdom was shocked. Even the White Lotus Maiden Sage did not have such an evaluation from the leader of the White Lotus School. "They're here, they're here." At that moment, a cry came from the crowd. At the end of the street, two figures were slowly walking towards them. They were a man and a woman. At the front was Chu Kuangren. He was dressed in a luxurious white robe with a jade crown on his head and a pair of white boots inlaid with jade on his feet. His aura was ethereal like that of an immortal. Behind him was Lan Yu. She was dressed in a silver-white armor with her wings spread out. Holding a scepter of light in her hand, she exuded a holy aura. At that moment, the entire street was silent. There were only these two people between heaven and earth. "Play the music," the leader of the White Lotus School said from the high platform. On both sides of the street, there were people blowing into a horn, and a solemn sound echoed throughout the sky. At that moment, another phenomenon appeared. An incredibly mysterious Taoist rhyme emanated from Chu Kuangren's body. With every step he took, a white lotus bloomed beneath his feet. With every step he took, a lotus bloomed, the sage ruler's white lotus light of purification. It's the white lotus light of purification. Could he be the reincarnation of the sage ruler? Greetings, bachelor sage. Countless followers of the White Lotus Sage ruler immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Chu Kuangren the moment they saw the white lotus light of purification. At that moment, it was as if Chu Kuangren was the reincarnation of the White Lotus Sage ruler, who single-handedly suppressed the demonic beasts of hell and saved billions of lives 20,000 years ago. Everyone worshipped him like a god. Behind Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu stared at his back with a fanatical look in her eyes, just like the other followers. To her, Chu Kuangren should be high and mighty, respected and worshipped by billions of people because he was her god. The White Lotus Maiden Sage and a few other bachelor sages watched from afar. They looked at each other with a bitter smile on their faces. They did not have such a scene when they were conferred their titles. "We're all bachelor sages, but there's no doubt that Chu Kuangren's position is much higher than ours," one of the bachelor sages said, who asked him to gain insights into the White Lotus light of purification. "Maiden Sage, aren't you afraid that Chu Kuangren will be a threat to you now that he has mastered the White Lotus light of purification?" One of the bachelor sages looked at the White Lotus Maiden Sage and asked curiously. The White Lotus Maiden Sage shook her head. "He won't." "Why not?" The leader conferred him as a bachelor sage mainly because he has mastered the White Lotus light of purification. However, he's still the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect, so the leader won't give him too much power. The White Lotus Maiden Sage knew very well that although Chu Kuangren was a bachelor sage, he was still different from the pure disciples of the School of White Lotus. Besides, I don't think he'll care about the School of White Lotus. With his qualifications, he'll have a bigger stage in the future. The White Lotus Maiden Sage said. Chu Kuangren's qualifications were too amazing. If someone was destined to become an emperor in this era, then Chu Kuangren had a high chance of becoming one. At least, he was much bigger than them. The School of White Lotus was nothing in Chu Kuangren's eyes in the future. Clinging to the School of White Lotus would only bring more harm than good. Chu Kuangren walked across the street and arrived at the high platform. The king of the Full Moon Kingdom quickly went up to him and looked at Chu Kuangren in amazement. "Bachelor Sage, you're indeed extraordinary. All right, let's begin the conferment." The White Lotus Maiden took out a lotus-shaped crown and placed it on Chu Kuangren's head. Then, she announced to the disciples below, "I hereby announce that from today onwards, Chu Kuangren is the School of White Lotus Bachelor Sage. Greetings, Bachelor Sage. Greetings, Bachelor Sage." Chapter 81. After the ceremony, Chu Kuangren left the School of White Lotus and continued his journey to the next sage orthodoxy. Within 2 days of his departure, news of him becoming the White Lotus Bachelor Sage had spread throughout the Azure Dragon domain, shocking countless cultivators and orthodoxies. Everyone was dumbfounded. Chu Kuangren had just become the fiancé of the royal Azure dynasty a few days ago. How did he become the White Lotus Bachelor Sage in such a short time? What the hell was going on? What was going on? The world was changing so fast that they could not wrap their heads around it. Can someone tell me what's going on? How did Chu Kuangren become the White Lotus Bachelor Sage? Out of the 8 great sage orthodoxies in the Azure Dragon domain, almost half of them are now protecting him. My God, this is unbelievable. What the hell happened in the past few days? *It, what kind of charm does this Chu Kuangren have? Why are all these sage orthodoxies flocking to him? 3 great sage orthodoxies are protecting a youngster on his path of cultivation. Hey, do they have to be so ostentatious? I'm impressed. This is what a supreme sky pride looks like. In the Azure Dragon domain, be it the ordinary cultivators, sky prides, or the sage orthodoxies, everyone was shocked by the news. Some of the orthodoxies suddenly realized that the 3 great sage orthodoxies were protecting Chu Kuangren. This was some sort of alliance. Chu Kuangren was still young, yet he could already control the power structure of the Azure Dragon domain. What would happen when he grew up? At that moment, many orthodoxies could not stay calm anymore. Inside the sacred lands of Serene Wisdom, the current Lord of Serene Wisdom, Master Taoist Ling Hai, had just received the news that Chu Kuangren had become a bachelor sage. A hint of worry flashed across his eyes. This kid is too talented. Now that he has the protection of 3 great sage orthodoxies, his rise is unstoppable. If we don't keep him in check, the sacred lands of Serene Wisdom will not be able to become an emperor in this world. At that thought, Master Taoist Ling Hai's eyes flashed with unwillingness. He looked towards a mountain in the depths of the sacred lands. Perhaps it's time to awaken him. The sky pride from tens of thousands of years ago. There had been no emperors in the past 150,000 years, and in these 150,000 years, there had been countless sky prides, many of whom were extremely talented supreme Taoist physiques. However, these people were born in the Dharma-ending era, where the great Tao was not apparent. They had no fate with the throne, so they were unwilling to give up. They sealed themselves and quietly waited for the great battle that would give them the opportunity to become emperor. Spirit Illusion Holy Land had such a sleeping genius before. It was just that Chu Kuangren had not been awakened all this while. Now that Chu Kuangren was so talented, he needed someone to go up against him. That prodigy was the best candidate. In Xiang Valley, the Purple Sun Valley Master looked at Lin Badian, took a deep breath and asked, "Badian, are you sure you want to do this?" A look of determination flashed across Lin Badian's eyes. Chu Kuangren is too terrifying. If I don't stake everything on this, I won't stand a chance against him. All right, take care of yourself. Ziyang Valley Master sighed softly. Then, he waved his hand and opened up a passage in the void. Colorful flames surged inside. A terrifying temperature filled the air. Lin Badian looked at the passageway and walked in with determination. When the other orthodoxies heard that the 3 great sage orthodoxies were protecting Chu Kuangren, they more or less responded accordingly. However, Chu Kuangren was not aware of any of that. At this time, he was on his way to the Taishu Temple. Another thing worth mentioning was that he now had 3 protectors by his side instead of 2. Needless to say, the extra one was from the School of White Lotus. He could not help but sigh. If he had a secondary card, the 3 of them could play fight the landlord. On the ferry boat, Chu Kuangren closed his eyes and pondered. A large number of cultivation techniques appeared in his mind. Most of them were sword techniques, but a few were techniques from the School of White Lotus. He integrated those techniques one by one into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. He had already decided to walk the path of the single sword technique. Moreover, he had already begun to take shape. All he needed to do now was to perfect his understanding of techniques and continue to integrate those insights into the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique. Perhaps one day this technique could be upgraded into an emperor technique. Chu Kuangren suddenly exclaimed. He gestured for Lan Yu to stop the ferry boat and sensed for a while. Just a moment ago he had a strange feeling. It was a feeling bestowed upon him by the treasure locating skill, which gave him a keen sense of treasure. Activating the treasure locating skill, Chu Kuangren sensed his surroundings. Found it. Chu Kuangren pointed in a certain direction and drove the ferry boat towards it. In a certain mountain range, two terrifying auras collided with each other. Every wisp of aura released was enough to tear apart a mountain or a river. Both of them were strong cultivators. Their bodies were surging with extremely powerful Taoist rhymes and spiritual power, and the surrounding space was shaking violently because of them. At the center of their battle was a mountain peak, and on top of the peak was an extraordinary supreme elixir. Although the battle between the two was intense, they were trying their best to avoid the shockwaves from their battle affecting the supreme elixir. Old man, this sage supreme elixir is mine. One of the cultivators whose body was covered in lightning bolts said coldly. It was a sage supreme elixir. Although it was not as powerful as a sage supreme elixir, it was still much stronger than most honorable supreme elixirs. With this supreme elixir, he would be able to break through to the late-stage honorable realm. Humph, you want me to give it to you? No way. Others might be afraid of the Thunder Falcon tribe, but not the Taishu Temple. The one who was facing off against the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable was an old man in a Taoist robe and holding a horsetail whisk. There's no point in talking. Kill! Both parties clashed once again. Both of them were mid-stage honorable realm cultivators, so it was hard to tell who was stronger. Blood lightning! The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable let out a loud roar. The lightning on his body was instantly dyed red, and a violent Taoist rhyme spread in all directions. This was a powerful secret technique of the Thunder Falcon tribe. Although it was a self-destructive technique, it allowed the user's power to skyrocket. After using the blood lightning, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable quickly suppressed the old man with the horsetail whisk. With a single punch, the old man was sent flying hundreds of feet away. The violent blood-colored lightning continued to corrode the old man's body. However, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable knew that this technique was not enough to kill his opponent, and the blood lightning could not be used for a long period of time. Otherwise, the side effects would be too severe. He dispersed the blood lightning, and while the old man with the horsetail whisk was injured, he quickly dashed towards the sage supreme elixir on the mountain peak. His eyes were filled with joy. This supreme elixir is mine. However, right at that moment, a domineering purple sword ray suddenly descended from the sky. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable expression changed slightly, and he quickly dodged it. The sword ray landed on the ground and exploded, instantly creating a huge sword scar that was 100 meters long. The remnant sword chi swept out in all directions. Such an attack was no weaker than an honorable. Who is it? The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable's expression was extremely gloomy. It was not easy for him to get his hands on the supreme elixir. So where did this troublemaker come from? A white-robed figure descended from the sky with a silver-haired lady by his side. Both of them were extremely beautiful. It was Chu Kuangren, Lan Yu, who had found him using the treasure locating skill. Fellow Taoist, I'm sorry, but I can see that this supreme elixir is quite extraordinary, and it seems to be fated with me. I hope you can part with it. Chapter 82. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator's face sank when he heard Chu Kuangren's words. The appearance of the precious medicine is extraordinary. Is it fated with you? There are many extraordinary treasures in the world. Could it be that all of them are fated with you? Nonsense. I don't care where you're from. You're courting death if you dare to stop me from getting my medicine. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable warrior's body surged with a domineering lightning-based Taoist rhyme as he charged forward in the blink of an eye. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes and activated his Eye of Revelation. In an instant, he saw through his opponent's bone structure, cultivation level, and so on. So you're from the Thunder Falcon tribe. With the Descendant Self-Sword in his hand, Chu Kuangren did not dodge or evade the attack. Instead, he swung his sword at the incoming attack and a terrifying sword ray instantly shot out. The sword light collided with the lightning, and a terrifying force swept out in all directions. The void trembled, and the surrounding mountains exploded. Chu Kuangren was pushed back a few feet by that force. The combat strength of an honorable realm cultivator is indeed extraordinary. Chu Kuangren rubbed his numb arm with an eager look in his eyes. With his current strength, ordinary battle monarchs were no match for him, and only martial honorables could challenge him. This guy's cultivation level. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator's expression changed. It was not because Chu Kuangren's cultivation level was too high. On the contrary, an insightful emptiness realm cultivator was far inferior to him. He was a venerable 2 great realms higher than his opponent, but this insightful void realm cultivator's battle prowess was too terrifying. He went head-on against an exalt realm expert and remained unscathed. Where did this terrifying prodigy come from? Hold on. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator seemed to have thought of something as he stared at Chu Kuangren with a hint of fear in his eyes. Such extraordinary looks and temperament, coupled with this level of cultivation. You must be the Black Heaven Sect's elder senior brother, Chu Kuangren. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator exclaimed. Chu Kuangren lifted his sword. Not bad. His characteristics were too obvious, so it wasn't surprising that someone had guessed it. Let's go. After learning of Chu Kuangren's identity, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator no longer had the intention to fight him. All he wanted to do was to leave as soon as possible. He was not afraid of Chu Kuangren. After all, his opponent was just a Paradise Realm cultivator. However, he was extremely afraid of the Tao Protector behind him. That was an honorable supreme being. Venerable supreme being, the difference of a single word was like the difference between heaven and earth. Not to mention supreme honorable beings. I'm not asking you to leave just yet. Taoist rhymes circulated around Chu Kuangren's body, and a large amount of sword chi emerged from the void, forming into a long sword chi pillar. Tao physique phenomenon 9 Heaven Sword Prison. Open. After Chu Kuangren had integrated spatial energy into the sword prison, its sealing ability had greatly increased. Even an honorable would not be able to escape easily. Chu Kuangren, I don't even want that supreme elixir anymore. What else do you want? The Thunder Hawk honorable said angrily. Chu Kuangren shrugged. Nothing much. I just want to kill you or be killed by you. As he finished speaking, the Taoist rhyme on his body circulated, and the sword of the heavenly path and the green lotus sword melody materialized. A vast sword-based Taoist rhyme surged out like a tidal wave. During this period of time, he had improved too quickly. Even a young emperor could not withstand more than a few blows from him. He was almost invincible among the younger generation. He needed an opponent to test his strength, and it was obvious that the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable warrior was a good candidate. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Seeing that Chu Kuangren did not back down, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable warrior was infuriated and attacked again. A domineering lightning-based Taoist rhyme surrounded his body, and streaks of silver-white lightning danced in the air, striking towards Chu Kuangren one after another. Each strike contained unparalleled power. Even young Emperor Lei Ao, who was killed by Chu Kuangren in the past, could not compare. That was the power of an honorable. Just in time. Instead of retreating, Chu Kuangren charged forward. He activated his 3 Taoist physique transformations, and the 4 supreme foundation levels within his body radiated with divine light. With a slash of his sword, a terrifying sword ray engulfed the heavens and the earth. It was the purest form of attack intent, the peerless Taoist rhyme that could destroy all techniques with a single sword. Wherever the sword ray passed, countless streaks of lightning were shattered. Not far away, the Taoist-robed old man who had just recovered was shocked by the scene before him. What a terrifying young man! A Paradise Realm cultivator was evenly matched with an honorable cultivator. He had never seen such a thing before. Boom, boom, boom. The purple sword ray and the silver-white lightning clashed one after another, and the incredibly powerful Taoist rhymes intertwined and collided in the air. The terrifying power caused the surrounding mountains and rivers to explode and shatter. It was the first time the 3 Taoist protectors had seen Chu Kuangren go all out. Even they could not help but be shocked. He's too strong. The Bachelor Sage's strength is too strong. He's only a Paradise Realm cultivator now. Once he ascends to the battle monarch or even the honorable realm, what kind of terrifying combat strength will he have? In the dark void, the white-robed, middle-aged woman from the school of White Lotus said in shock. Yes, the fiancé's combat strength is indeed unprecedented. In this era's Emperor's Path battle, he'll surely come out on top. The old woman from the Royal Azure Dynasty said. The seventh forefather looked proud. Of course. Look at him, he's the elder senior brother of the Black Heaven sect. He's also the fiancé of the Royal Azure Dynasty, and also the bachelor sage of the School of White Lotus. The old woman and the middle-aged woman said in dissatisfaction. Outside the void, the battle between Chu Kuangren and the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator had reached its climax. Seeing that he could not defeat Chu Kuangren after so long, the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator gritted his teeth and once again activated the blood lightning technique. Amidst the explosion, a violent and boundless blood-colored lightning exploded. Chu Kuangren, die! The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator roared. Then, the lightning intertwined to form a horrifying blood-colored killing net. The terrifying lightning-based Taoist rhyme locked onto Chu Kuangren, making it difficult for him to evade. The three Taoist protectors who were secretly guarding him were ready to attack at any time. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's longsword was suspended in the air. He then formed a mysterious hand sign and an incredibly vast Taoist rhyme appeared. A white light gushed out from Chu Kuangren's body, and a white lotus appeared in the void. It was the white lotus light of purification. The white lotus surrounded the void, and the blood-colored lightning that landed on the white lotus disintegrated into spiritual qi and dissipated. How is this possible? What kind of technique is this? The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator was shocked. In the void, the middle-aged woman's eyes were filled with passion. This is the White Lotus Sage ruler's white lotus light of purification. Legend has it that this technique can disintegrate spiritual energy, disintegrate Taoist rhymes, and purify everything. It has an unparalleled defensive ability. I can't believe that the Bachelor Sage can already use this technique to such a high level of proficiency after only gaining insights into it a few days ago. It's too powerful, too powerful. The old lady and the seventh forefather were shocked as well. The power of the White Lotus Light of Purification was indeed amazing. No wonder no one had managed to gain insights into it for so many years. It was too mysterious. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. While the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator was still in shock, Chu Kuangren swung his sword and a violent sword ray instantly gushed out. Wherever the sword ray passed, the void trembled. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator hurriedly unleashed a blood-colored lightning to block it, but he was still heavily injured by that attack. D****. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator panicked. However, Chu Kuangren's attacks were endless. He had the White Lotus Light of Purification for defense and the Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique for offense. His combat strength was unparalleled. The Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator was forced to retreat and was continuously injured. When it was about time, Chu Kuangren suddenly opened his palm, and a pitch-black vortex appeared in the middle of his palm like the mouth of a giant beast. Gluttonous devouring technique. The Taishu Temple Lord smiled faintly when he saw the person in white walking towards him from outside the main hall. Everyone says that the eldest senior brother of the Shentian sect is extraordinary. Now that I've seen him, he really does live up to his reputation. You flatter me, Temple Lord. Chu Kuangren bowed. Ling Zhang has already told me the purpose of Brother Chu's visit. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for someone to sit and spar with Brother Chu. Thank you, Temple Lord. Elder Wang, Brother Chu has come from afar. Please bring him to the guest room to rest. The Taishu Temple Lord said to an elder beside him. All right. After Chu Kuangren left, the Taishu Temple Lord had a serious look on his face. One of them is an honorable supreme, and the other two are at least honorables. The rumors are true. The three great sage orthodoxies are protecting this kid's path of cultivation. This is truly shocking. This Chu Kuangren is too talented. This person's combat strength is enough to kill an honorable. Ling Zhang then told them how Chu Kuangren killed the Thunder Falcon tribe's honorable cultivator. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their faces filled with shock. Being able to fight a battle monarch realm cultivator while still in the paradise realm is enough for him to be called a young emperor. What kind of sky pride is this? It's just too terrifying. This person can't be measured with common sense. Even Wuxia might not be able to fight against him. The crowd in the main hall discussed among themselves. Chu Kuangren was led to a guest room by Elder Wang. Brother Chu, there's a bell in the guest room. If you need anything, just ring it and someone will come. Elder Wang smiled. Thank you. You're a guest from afar. You're welcome. Elder Wang then left. Chu Kuangren entered the guest room. There were a few rooms inside, and there was a bell hanging on the door. He shook it curiously. A crisp and pleasant ring was heard. Not long after, a young Taoist with his hair tied up came in and asked Chu Kuangren what he needed. Little Taoist, I'm new here. I wonder if you can tell me about any interesting places in the Taishu temple. Of course. The little Taoist then told Chu Kuangren about the place. Halfway through, the little Taoist suddenly noticed Chu Kuangren's gaze outside the door. Curious, he looked over too. A young Taoist with a delicate face in a green Taoist robe was slowly walking in. He had a calm temperament about him. The little Taoist was shocked to see this person. He then walked up to him and bowed. Greetings, Senior Brother Wuxia. Wuxia Zi was a legendary name in the Taishu temple. He was also the most outstanding sky pride among the younger generation in the Taishu temple. He was also the only cultivator to be recognized by the Taishu seal in the past thousands of years. Yes. Wuxia Zi nodded slightly. He then looked at Chu Kuangren and bowed. Greetings, Brother Chu. Greetings, Brother Wuxia. Chapter 84. Wuxia Zi, Taishu Temple's lead disciple, Paradise Realm late stage, cultivates sage techniques, Taishu technique, Sunlight Breaker. Taishu Temple's genius, wields sage ruler weapon, Taishu seal. Information about Wuxia Zi appeared in front of Chu Kuangren one by one. He had heard of Wuxia Zi's name before he came, but he heard that he had been in closed-door meditation. That was why he had never seen him in the martial arts contest or the secret realm exploration. Today was his first time seeing him. Someone once said that if Wuxia Zi had not been in closed-door meditation, Gu Chang's path of invincibility would not have reached the Black Heaven sect and would have been defeated in the Taishu temple. That showed that he was not a simple person. Through Chu Kuangren's eye of revelation, Wuxia Zi's overall strength was indeed much higher than Gu Chang's. Although I've lived in the Taishu temple for a long time, I've heard of your name. That's why I'm here today. Wuxia Zi smiled. I wonder if you're satisfied. The beauty of an immortal is truly admirable. Yes, that's the truth. Chu Kuangren nodded and admitted it without hesitation. Brother Chu, I've heard of your purpose in coming to the Taishu temple. Are you trying to imitate Gu Chang'e? Back then, Gu Chang'e challenged the Taoists of the other sage orthodoxies in order to cultivate his heart of invincibility. To others, Chu Kuangren's visit to the orthodoxies was similar to Gu Chang'e's. Hey Brother Wuxia, you're wrong. That Gu Chang'e made a big fuss and caused an uproar in the world. I'm much more low-key than him. Besides, I'm just discussing Tao and Dharma. I won't fight. Chu Kuangren laughed. Wuxia Zi had a strange look on his face. Brother Chu, you visited the school of White Lotus, right? Then, news of you becoming a White Lotus bachelor sage spread. It was a huge sensation. Brother Chu, you call this low-key? Chu Kuangren shrugged helplessly. Would you believe me if I told you that it was just an accident, Brother Wuxia? Who knew that the White Lotus light of purification was so important to the school of White Lotus that it was related to the entire Orthodoxy's cultivation foundation? It doesn't matter if I believe you or not. What's important is that I'm here to visit you, Brother Chu, to spar with you. As Wuxia Zi spoke, the little Taoist beside him jumped in fright. Senior brother Wuchen wanted to spar with Chu Kuangren. Sure. This was Chu Kuangren's purpose for coming here, so he had no reason to refuse. Please. Wuchen Zi flicked his sleeves, and 2 praying mats appeared before him. He sat on one of them, and the Taoist rhyme on his body gradually emanated. Chu Kuangren sat right across him. The proud sons of heaven of the present age sat down and discussed the Tao. The little Taoist beside them was so excited that he couldn't control himself, but he didn't dare to make a sound and disturb them. The 2 Taoist rhymes began to clash within the room. The sword of the heavens above Chu Kuangren's head was incomparably sharp, whereas Wuchen Zi was surrounded by a tumbling sea of clouds that was ethereal and unpredictable. As the Taoist rhyme spread out, some of the experts sensed it. Someone is discussing the Tao. This direction leads to the guest room. It's Chu Kuangren. Such a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme. The other one is ethereal and unpredictable. It's the Taoist of our Taishu sect, Wuchen Zi. The 2 of them are already discussing the Tao. Some of the Taishu temple's elders were extremely curious, and they all headed towards the place where the 2 of them were discussing the Tao. Besides the ethereal Taishu technique, the most famous cultivation techniques in the Taishu sect are 32 sets of supreme techniques and 2 sets of sage techniques. I've only learned 12 of them, so please enlighten me, Brother Chu. When the group of Taishu temple's elders arrived, they only heard Wuchen Zi's words. Following that, his Taoist rhyme changed and formed a technique. The sea of clouds tumbled and turned into several clusters of clouds that attacked Chu Kuangren from all directions. That's the cloud-churning technique. One of the elders recognized that technique. However, before the clusters of clouds could get close to Chu Kuangren, the sword of the heavens above him flashed a sword ray and the clusters of clouds were shattered. Wuchen Zi was not surprised. He continued to channel his Taoist rhyme and formed a series of mysterious techniques. That's the supreme technique, willow-whisk technique, and the freezing spring technique. TSK, so many supreme techniques, and he's so proficient in each of them. How rare. As expected of the only sky pride to be recognized by the Taishu seal in the past few thousand years. He's indeed extraordinary. Look at Chu Kuangren. Although Wuchen Zi's techniques were mysterious, Chu Kuangren remained unmoved despite the raging winds and torrential rain from the outside world. The sword of the heavens hovered above his head, its sword ray flashing from time to time. None of the techniques could land on him. Breaking all techniques with a single sword, it was vividly and vividly displayed. At that moment, a great sun appeared in the sea of clouds around Wuchen Zi. As the great sun rose, it shone with a blinding radiance. A ray of golden light flew out from the great sun, piercing through the layers of clouds and heading straight towards Chu Kuangren. That's the sage technique, Sunlight Breaker. I didn't expect Wuchen Zi to use such a powerful technique so soon. It seems like Chu Kuangren has given him quite a bit of pressure. The group of Taishu Temple's elders were amazed. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was still calm in the face of a sage technique. A purple sword ray flashed from the sword of the heavens above his head. The purple sword ray collided with the great sun's golden light, and the great sun's golden light was torn apart like a thin piece of paper. The sword ray was like a hot knife through butter as it landed on Wuchen Zi's body. His body trembled slightly, and the Taoist rhymes around him dispersed. The outcome of this sparring session was clear. Not enough. Your Taoist Tao and your techniques are not strong enough. Chu Kuangren said calmly. There was no emotion in his tone. There was no pride, and no contempt. It was as if he was merely stating a fact. However, that was the biggest blow. It meant that Chu Kuangren and Wuchen Zi were no longer on the same level. It was like comparing a human to an ant. Would a human be proud of their strength that far surpassed an ant? Would they look down on an ant because of that? No, because both of them were on the same level. Wuchen Zi understood what Chu Kuangren meant, and he could not help but smile bitterly. The gap between them was just too big. He was the most outstanding sky pride in the Taishu Temple, but compared to Chu Kuangren, he felt that he was too small and too low. It's my honor to be able to spar with you, Brother Chu. I've gained a lot from this sparring session. Wuxia stood up and bowed. He had gained something, but more than that, he felt a sense of loss and loneliness. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. You're too kind. He did not console Wuxia because it was useless. It was a fact that he was much stronger than Wuxia. Wuxia could only rely on himself to walk out of this. Sigh. The gap is too big. Indeed. The elders of the Taishu Temple could not help but sigh. At that moment, the Taishu Temple Lord slowly walked over. Upon seeing him, Wuxia bowed. Greetings, honorable teacher. Wuxia was the disciple of the current Taishu Temple Lord. A moment of victory or defeat does not mean a lifetime of victory or defeat. Wuxia, this is just a training session. Don't be too engrossed in it. The Taishu Temple Lord saw Wuxia's desolate expression, and a hint of heartache flashed across his eyes. Yes, honorable teacher. Wuxia nodded. Then, the Taishu Temple Lord looked at Chu Kuangren and said, Junior Chu, I'm afraid no one in your generation can compare to your profound understanding of Taoist techniques. I wonder if I have the honor to spar with you? Chapter 85. The Taishu Temple Lord wanted to mentally spar with Chu Kuangren. The crowd was in an uproar when they heard that. Who was the Taishu Temple Lord? He was the leader of a sage orthodoxy and an honorable supreme. His name was well known throughout the Azure Dragon domain, and he was revered by billions of people wherever he went. Yet, such a person wanted to mentally spar with a junior? If word of this got out, it would scare people to death. Chu Kuangren was stunned when he heard what the Taishu Temple Lord said. Why did he feel that the Taishu Temple Lord wanted to avenge Wuxia? Not bad at all. Chu Kuangren chuckled as a glint of light flashed across his eyes. The Taishu Temple Lord was not wrong. He had entered the state of Tao enlightenment many times, and he had drawn the meditational clarity attribute a few days ago. His understanding of Tao had long surpassed his peers by leaps and bounds. No, even the experts of the older generation couldn't compare to him. He could not gain much from mentally sparring with the younger cultivators. Only by mentally sparring with the top cultivators would he gain more. Without a doubt, the Taishu Temple Lord was one such cultivator. Since the Temple Lord has invited me, I dare not disobey. Chu Kuangren smiled. All right, then I shall wait for you at the distant Day Palace tomorrow. The Taishu Temple Lord smiled, bowed, and left. When he turned around, the Taishu Temple Lord's eyes were filled with regret. Sigh, I was too impulsive. He was an honorable supreme, yet he impulsively suggested mentally sparring with a junior. If word got out, it would be so embarrassing. However, the words were out and there was no turning back. After the Taishu Temple Lord and the others left, the seventh forefather appeared and frowned. Young lad, do you really want to mentally spar with the Taishu Temple Lord? Of course. This is a good opportunity for me to experience the Taishu Temple's Taoist techniques. Chu Kuangren smiled. But the Taishu Temple Lord is an honorable supreme, and his understanding of Tao is rare. Although mentally sparring is not life-threatening, if the gap is too big, it might affect my Taoist core. My Taoist core is as solid as a rock. Chu Kuangren smiled, his tone full of confidence. His understanding of Tao was no less than an honorable. Even if the Taishu Temple Lord's understanding was higher than his, it would not affect his Taoist core. All right. The seventh forefather nodded. The news that Chu Kuangren was going to spar with the Taishu Temple Lord spread like wildfire in less than half a day, shocking countless people. For a time, the entire Void Temple discussed endlessly. A Supreme Exalt and a Void Interpretation Realm Junior are going to sit down and discuss the Tao. Have I gone mad or has the world gone mad? F***ck me. This Chu Kuangren is amazing. I heard that senior brother Wuxia went to spar with Chu Kuangren but failed in the end. Is the faction lord trying to avenge him? Based on the Abbey Dean's character, it's possible. That's right. I heard that a few decades ago, senior brother Wuxia was injured by a supremacy when he went down the mountain to train. The Hall Master was furious and directly killed his way to the supremacy's orthodoxy and forcefully destroyed it. Tisk tsk, no matter what, The fact that Chu Kuangren is going to spar with the Temple Lord is too shocking. I must go and watch it tomorrow. I want to go too. Me too. In the main hall, the Taishu Temple Lord and a few elders were gathered together. Abby Dean, you're confused. Who do you think you are? How dare you spar with a junior? One of the elders said bluntly. He had a good relationship with the Taishu Temple Lord, so only he would dare to speak like that. Although the other elders did not say it out loud, their eyes were more or less filled with dissatisfaction. They felt that the Taishu Temple Lord had gone too far. The Taishu Temple Lord said, Chu Kuangren is a genius. Don't you guys want to know what his limit is? Temple Lord, are you saying that this is just a test? Yes, although it's just a spar and not a real battle, I can at least get a rough idea of this kid's strength if I fight him personally. But you don't have to fight him. Ling Zheng said that since this child was able to kill a venerable one, it means that his comprehension of the Tao is very likely not below that of a venerable one. Only if I make a move will I have full confidence. The Taishu Temple Lord's expression was as calm as an ancient well. I see. Only then did the elders' dissatisfaction dissipate. The Taishu Temple Lord heaved a sigh of relief. He had finally fooled them. In fact, he did not think too much when he proposed the spar to Chu Kuangren. He only wanted to help his disciple vent his anger. However, now that he thought about it, even if Wu Chenzi did not play a part, he should have fought Chu Kuangren personally. Chu Kuangren, I'll be looking forward to your performance tomorrow. The Taishu Temple Lord murmured. The next day, the outer perimeter of the distant Day Palace was filled with Taishu Temple cultivators. Everyone was waiting for the spar that could be said to be the world's greatest disparity. An Honorable Supreme and a Paradise Realm Junior. It's about to begin. Can't wait. Where's Chu Kuangren? Is he here yet? He's here, he's here. At that moment, at the end of the crowd, the white-robed Chu Kuangren slowly walked towards them with Lan Yu in tow. He walked at a pace that was neither too fast nor too slow. Lan Yu, who was behind him, followed closely behind. The man and woman instantly attracted everyone's attention. Even the great cultivators who had been cultivating for thousands of years could not help but exclaim. Their peerless beauty was dazzling. As Chu Kuangren walked towards the distant Day Palace, he saw that the Taishu Temple Lord was inside, sitting on a futon with his back facing him. There was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. How big was the gap between his Taoist techniques and his opponents? At that moment, a figure suddenly walked out from the crowd. It was a young cultivator with a bandana on his head. His eyes were filled with eagerness. Taishu Temple Taoist Qingyun. I have a Taoist technique that I'd like to learn from you, Brother Chu. Taoist rhymes appeared around the young cultivator's body. Amidst the tumbling sea of clouds, the sun rose, and a golden ray of light suddenly shot out. That was the sage technique Sunlight Breaker Taoist rhymes. Taishu Temple Fengxian also has a Taoist technique. Please enlighten me. Taishu Temple Qingxin. Please enlighten me. A few young cultivators walked out one after another. Without using their spiritual power, they only used their Taoist rhymes to summon all sorts of transformations towards Chu Kuangren. These people were all sky prides of the younger generation. Although they respected Chu Kuangren, they were also unwilling to admit defeat. Hence, they could not help but attack together, wanting to break Chu Kuangren's spirit. Unfortunately, Chu Kuangren did not care about them. His eyes were only on the Taishu Temple Lord who was sitting in the distant Day Palace. Just as the various Taoist rhymes surged towards him, the sword of the heavens condensed above Chu Kuangren's head. The sword ray circulated, and in a flash, the Taoist rhymes dispersed like green smoke that was blown away by the wind. Not a single trace of it landed on Chu Kuangren. The gap between them and Chu Kuangren shocked all the young sky prides. The gap between them and Chu Kuangren was just too huge. It was like comparing a firefly to the moon. How could they be compared? Chu Kuangren walked past the crowd of sky prides and arrived at the entrance of the distant Day Palace. Lan Yu stopped at the entrance, and Chu Kuangren walked in without hesitation. Junior Chu, my apologies for my rudeness. The Taishu Temple Lord turned around and smiled apologetically. Chapter 86. It's just a breeze. It doesn't matter. Chu Kuangren chuckled. His voice was neither loud nor soft, and he made no attempt to hide it. Outside the distant Day Palace Hall, the disciples' expressions changed. They wanted to refute him, but they did not know what to say. In other words, they were speechless. A few of the Sky Prides looked dejected, unwilling, and helpless at the same time. With Junior Chu around, the Sky Prides of this world have become mediocre. The Taishu Temple Lord looked at Chu Kuangren and lamented. I do not deny what you said, Temple Lord. Chu Kuangren did not look humble at all. To him, that was the truth. Even a young emperor would not be able to fight back against him. If even a young emperor was like that, then what about the other so-called Sky Prides? Hence, no one could be called a Sky Pride in front of him. The Taishu Temple Lord's mouth twitched. He had never seen someone as shameless as Chu Kuangren, who did not know how to be humble at all. Chu Kuangren's name was not wrong after all. Temple Lord, please, Chu Kuangren said. He could not wait to spar with this honorable supreme. You're a guest and a junior at the same time, so you go first. Then I shall not hold back. Taoist rhymes emanated from Chu Kuangren's body as a sword of the heavens materialized above his head. Several sword rays then shot out towards the Taishu Temple Lord. What a sharp sword-based Taoist rhyme. Not bad. The Taishu Temple Lord chuckled as an ethereal Taoist rhyme gathered around him. It turned into a surging sea of clouds that enveloped the sword rays. In the blink of an eye, the sword lights disappeared without a trace. Chu Kuangren was not surprised. It would be surprising if the Taishu Temple Lord's Taoist technique could not even block a few of his sword rays. Heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Without hesitation, Chu Kuangren unleashed his Sage Ruler Technique's Taoist rhyme. A boundlessly sharp Taoist rhyme rose, and the sword of the heavens trembled slightly before a domineering purple sword ray shot out. Although there was no spiritual power attached to it, just the Taoist rhyme alone was enough to frighten people. Many geniuses outside the Changtian Palace were so frightened by the sword light that their faces turned pale and their lips turned purple. They only felt that they were too insignificant. If he had used this Tao technique when we were discussing Tao yesterday, I'm afraid my Tao heart would have been affected, Wu Chenzi said with a pale face. It wasn't just him. Even the higher-ups and elders of the Void Temple were shocked. They noticed that even they might not be able to execute this kind of Tao art. The other party's comprehension in Tao arts was actually so profound. Ha, what an impressive Sage Ruler technique. What an impressive single sword technique, the Taishu Temple Lord exclaimed. Even he dared not underestimate Chu Kuangren's Tao technique. The Taishu Temple Lord's Taoist rhyme surged out and enveloped the domineering purple sword light. In the clouds, purple light flashed. Then the clouds exploded. The Taoist rhymes of the two spread out like a hurricane, sweeping across the entire Long Day Palace. The candlelight flickered, and the doors and windows creaked. Young friend, have a taste of mine, the Taishu Temple Lord chuckled. Then, he activated his Tao technique and turned into a few clusters of clouds that surged towards Chu Kuangren. How could an Honorable Supreme's Tao technique be simple? Even if it was an Honorable Supreme technique, Chu Kuangren still had to focus all of his attention on it as he continuously cast the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique. Ray after ray of sword rays shuttled back and forth around Chu Kuangren's body, shattering the clusters of clouds that came at him. No matter how many Taoist techniques the Taishu Temple Lord cast and transformations, Chu Kuangren only had that one sword technique. It was as if that was the only sword technique he knew. However, that one sword technique was enough to stun everyone. Oh my God! I can't believe Chu Kuangren can mentally debate with the Taishu Temple Lord. How old is he? This is unbelievable. I agree. How can someone like him exist in this world? No wonder the three great sage orthodoxies are willing to protect him. A sky pride like him will definitely achieve great things in the future. Everyone was dumbstruck by this scene, whereas some people relied on this Tao discussion to verify what they'd learned, and they watched with infatuation. Even the honorables felt that they had learned something. As time passed, almost an hour had passed. The Taishu Temple Lord's Dao technique continued to strengthen as he tested Chu Kuangren's limits. Junior Chu, you can't stop me with that sword technique anymore. The Taishu Temple Lord smiled when he felt that it was about time. As Taoist rhymes circulated, a great sun appeared in the clouds and a golden ray of light shot out. It was the Taishu Temple Lord's sage technique, sunlight destruction. The golden ray of light shattered the sword ray and headed straight for Chu Kuangren. Everyone who saw that scene thought to themselves, "It's over." It was rare for Chu Kuangren to be able to mentally debate with an honorable supreme. However, at that moment the Taoist rhymes around Chu Kuangren suddenly changed. White lotuses formed and blocked the golden ray of light. It was the white lotus light of purification. The Taishu Temple Lord was shocked. What a mysterious technique. It's similar to the school of white lotus light of purification, but much more exquisite. Is this the reason why the school of white lotus appointed you as a bachelor sage? Chu Kuangren did not answer. Instead, the sword of the heavens above him vibrated, and the heaven-slaying sword drawing technique's Taoist rhyme appeared once again as a sword ray shot out. However, the sun in the sea of clouds once again shot out golden light, striking down the sword light. The Taishu Temple Lord's Taoist technique was too powerful. Although Chu Kuangren had the white lotus light of purification to protect him, the heaven-slaying sword-drawing technique still could not do anything to the Taishu Temple Lord. "Little friend, you've done your best," the Taishu Temple Lord spoke. He then channeled his Dao technique with all his might as a vast amount of Dao energy gushed out. The white lotuses around Chu Kuangren swayed violently as if they were caught in a storm, as if they would shatter at any moment. As expected of an honorable supreme being, his Dao arts are indeed very strong. Is this the best I can do? Chu Kuangren activated his white lotus light of purification and struggled to hold on. No, this is not enough. My Taoist techniques can still be improved. Just when the Taishu Temple Lord thought that everything was about to end, Chu Kuangren did something unexpected. He slowly closed his eyes. What is he doing? Everyone was puzzled. The Taishu Temple Lord frowned slightly, but he did not stop his Taoist techniques. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's mind flashed with the various techniques he had learned in the past, as well as what he had learned from the sparring sessions. Gradually, the Taoist rhyme on his body grew stronger, and the white lotuses that were on the verge of collapsing gradually stabilized. How can this be? The Taishu Temple Lord's expression changed. At that moment, Chu Kuangren's eyes suddenly opened, and a terrifying ray of light flashed across them. "Temple Lord, please take another sword attack from me." Hum! The sword of heaven started to vibrate violently, and an incredibly terrifying sword-based Taoist rhyme swept out like a raging wave. The entire Taishu Temple was enveloped by this sword-based Taoist rhyme, and the swords in the hands of countless swordsmen uncontrollably let out a sword cry. A sword ray shot out from the sword of heaven, and its incredibly pure offensive Taoist rhyme made the Taishu Temple Lord's pupils dilate. Sunlight destruction. The great sun radiated with boundless light, and a ray of sunlight gushed out. However, the moment it came into contact with the sword ray, the sunlight was forcefully shattered. The sword ray pierced through the sea of clouds like a hot knife through butter and landed on the great sun. The Taoist rhyme transformations that were formed by that sword attack dispersed. The Taishu Temple Lord's body trembled, and his face was filled with shock. Chu Kuangren looked at him calmly. "How's this sword attack?" Chapter 87. I've lost. As soon as the Taishu Temple Lord finished speaking, the countless disciples outside the distant Day Palace Hall fell silent. The huge Taishu Temple did not make a sound. Everyone was so shocked that they could not speak. What did they just hear? The Taishu Temple Lord said that he lost. The Taishu Temple Lord had lost to Chu Kuangren in a mental sparring session. He was an honorable supreme. How could he lose to a junior? This kind of thing was too inconceivable. No one would dare to believe it if it was said out. The Temple Lord has lost. How is this possible? Chu Kuangren defeated the Temple Lord. What kind of monster is he? He's only in the Paradise realm, but he has defeated an honorable supreme in a mental sparring session. This is insane. Scary. This is too scary. Although I don't want to admit it, he's right. No one can call themselves a sky pride in front of him. All of them are mediocre. After the dead silence, a heated discussion broke out. Countless people were shocked and amazed. Some of the sky prides even felt a shadow cast over their hearts, as if they had seen a peak that they would never be able to cross in their lives. In the distant Day Palace Hall, the Taishu Temple Lord looked at Chu Kuangren quietly and said, "I can't believe Junior Chu was able to achieve enlightenment at the last moment and break through the Tao technique realm. How amazing! If not for the pressure you put on me, I wouldn't have been able to break through at the last moment." Chu Kuangren smiled. To him, wasn't this a normal operation? After all, he was the main character. The Taishu Temple Lord's mouth twitched when he heard that. He had gone for wool and come home shorn. "I've learned a lot from this mental sparring session. Thank you, Temple Lord." "You're welcome, Junior Chu. I hope you can stay at the Taishu Temple for a few more days. We can talk more when we have time." From that moment on, the Taishu Temple Lord treated Chu Kuangren as an equal, at least in terms of Tao techniques. Sure. Chu Kuangren did not refuse. He stayed at the Taishu Temple for another 3 days. During that time, other than the Taishu Temple Lord, the other elders also came to him for a mental sparring session. After 3 days and more than 10 mental sparring sessions, Chu Kuangren's understanding of Tao techniques deepened, and his single sword destruction technique became more complete. "Temple Lord, thank you for chatting for the past few days." In front of the Taishu Temple's mountain entrance, Chu Kuangren was ready to leave. The Great Void Temple Lord and a group of elders came to see him off. "Little friend, come often when you have time." The Taishu Temple Lord chuckled. Although he had lost to Chu Kuangren in the sparring session, he did not hold any grudges against him. Instead, he was just amazed. Moreover, being on good terms with this kind of genius also has 100 advantages and no disadvantages for the Void Temple. Only an idiot would become enemies with him. The mountains will never change, and the rivers will always flow. Farewell, Abby Dean. Chu Kuangren turned around and descended the mountain. Gazing at his departing figure, the Taishu Temple Lord sighed emotionally. This child is shockingly talented. He will definitely leave his name in history. He can even be compared to the primeval emperors. Chu Kuangren had left the Taishu Temple, but news of him winning the mental spar with the Taishu Temple Lord had spread far and wide. The geniuses of the various orthodoxies were in disbelief. An insightful Void Realm Cultivator debated with a Supreme Paragon, and he even won? He didn't even dare to brag like this. Monster. This Chu Kuangren isn't human at all. He's a monster. Which Sky Pride can win against an honorable supreme in a mental spar? I also think this person is too scary. Alright, this Chu Kuangren won't stop until he scares us to death, right? The trouble he causes is getting bigger and bigger. TSK, this is nothing. He has even killed a sage before. That makes sense. Although most of them were shocked, some of them seemed to have become numb to Chu Kuangren and began to think that it was normal. So what if he won against an honorable supreme in a mental spar? He had even killed an honorable supreme and a sage before. Compared to that, winning against the Taishu Temple Lord did not seem like a big deal anymore. Inside the sacred lands of serene wisdom, a black-haired young man was holding a report in his hand. On it were some of the top sky prides in the firmament star. Among them, Chu Kuangren's name was highlighted with a red pen. I can't believe that after so many years, when the great Dharma emergence and the Emperor's path has been reopened, there are only so few sky prides. Young Emperor? A Paradise Realm Cultivator who is comparable to a Battle Monarch Realm Cultivator is a young Emperor? What a joke. These young Emperors are all unworthy of their title. The black-haired young man said calmly. Beside him, Master Taoist Ling Hai was shocked. He did not expect the Sky Pride from tens of thousands of years ago to say such a thing. However, when he thought about his opponent's strength, he was no longer surprised. This Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, is quite interesting. If he can defeat an honorable supreme in the Paradise Realm with his Taoist techniques and cultivation base, then he would definitely be the top sky pride of my era. He might become a formidable opponent for me. The black-haired young man put the report aside and looked at Master Taoist Ling Hai. I've been in hibernation for 30,000 years, and the orthodoxy I used to belong to has perished. I can join the sacred lands of serene wisdom. However, I want the sacred lands of serene wisdom to help me with my cultivation. If I become an emperor in the future, I can guarantee that the sacred lands of serene wisdom will be invincible for 100,000 years. All right, Master Taoist Ling Hai nodded. Then I shall be the Taoist of the sacred lands of serene wisdom from now on. Ao Chong. The black-haired young man, Ao Chong, said calmly. His eyes were burning with passion. He had finally arrived in this era of great battles. In this life, he would defeat all his enemies. Inside Jiang Valley, the void suddenly distorted, and a purple-haired young man walked out of it. He was surrounded by flames of various colors. The temperature of the flames was terrifying. In a short moment, a forest was burned into ashes, and everything within a 100-mile radius was turned into scorched earth. The purple-haired young man slowly opened his palm, and a colorful flame appeared, emanating an extremely terrifying Taoist rhyme. I did it. I've finally tamed the sacred flame left behind by my ancestors. Chu Kuangren, I, Lin Badian, am not weaker than you. Inside Black Heaven sect, countless disciples had received news of Chu Kuangren defeating the Taishu Temple Lord in a mental spar. They were all ecstatic and proud. Elder Senior Brother is the best. This is nothing. I wouldn't even be surprised if Elder Senior Brother defeated a sage, let alone an honorable supreme. Elder Senior Brother is too powerful. Since Elder Senior Brother is so powerful, we have to work hard too. That's right. I'll double my cultivation tomorrow. Me too. Everyone, let's train together. It'll be more efficient. The power of a role model was limitless. Chu Kuangren had become a role model for the Black Heaven sect disciples. They chased after Chu Kuangren and worked hard in their cultivation just to close the gap between them. This phenomenon made the higher-ups of the Black Heaven sect very happy. However, Honorable Xian Qi was a little melancholic. He defeated the Taishu Temple Lord in a mental spar. Doesn't that mean that Kuangren's Dao cultivation base has already caught up to mine? Then I have nothing else to teach him. Honorable Xian Qi sighed, feeling very melancholic. Having a disciple who was too outstanding was also a troublesome thing. The few elders beside him could not help but roll their eyes when they saw his expression. Keep pretending, keep pretending. You're tuning in to the Legend of the Vagabond YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.